Like it.
Mason Wynn from Katy, Texas hits one into the Crawford boxes. And the Cardinals have a 4-1 lead. Shot down the line. Mason Wynn's got extra bases. 2-run score. Here comes Arias. They're going to wave it. Here he comes around third. Relay throw. Way late. Mason Wynn with a bases clearing double. On the ground to third. Tricky hop. Arias stayed with it. Throws to second, and the Cardinals have swept the Astros. 7-5 your final score. Graceffo saves it, and the Cardinals with a big hit from Mason Wynn have a happy flight ahead.
That is what it sounded like on the Cardinals TV network alongside Alex and T-Bone. I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. How about it, boys? 5 in a row. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4. 5 consecutive victories for your St. Louis Cardinals. They have scored 5 or more runs in each of those 5 games. They did that just once each of the past couple of seasons. No other team in Major League Baseball has more than 4 wins this year when allowing 5 runs. The Cardinals are 6-6 this year when they allow at least 5 runs on the season. So they're doing it in just about every way possible. We saw Jordan Walker go on this hellacious tear for a decent amount of time. He was able to carry the offense. We've talked about how they are one of the best teams in Major League Baseball at productive outs. Get them on, get them over, get them in. ABC Baseball, Cardinals have been quite good at that. They were not good at that over the weekend, though, Alex. The runners in scoring position numbers, not ideal for them against the Houston Astros.
No.
But they were able to do just enough to win 3 straight against a team that's a team that was ripe for the picking. The Astros pitching staff is a disaster right now. Bullpen, rotation, it doesn't matter who's coming into the game. They're lighting themselves on fire, and they can't wait for you to set the match, and here we go.
God, that's dark, man.
That's true.
Damn.
And the Cardinals did it. They took advantage of, what was it, like 5 or 6 different times they got hit by a pitch over the weekend? The Astros had 0 command. The Cardinals bullpen tried their best to make it interesting, but the offense was able to do enough to come out victorious in each of those 3 games. So my question to you, Alex, what do you make of it? They are now, 13-8 in the first 21 games of the regular season?
As one would have expected.
What do you make of any of this, man?
This sounds crazy to say, but nothing. Like, I'm not going to sit here and act as if all of a sudden they've broken out of this rebuild and now they're going to be contenders. It's just an exciting brand of baseball. That's what I make of it. Like, right now, the Cardinals are enjoyable to watch. To where if you would have asked me that same question at this time a month ago, I would have laughed before you finished the question. They're enjoyable to watch. I don't know what the hell's going to happen in the game. I don't know if their offense is going to explode. I don't know if their pitching is going to luck into a couple of scoreless outings or if their bullpen's going to blow it up. Although I do kind of know that their bullpen's going to blow it up at some point.
That one I feel confident in.
But they're exciting from start to finish. And that is something that I dreaded coming into the season because I didn't want to watch bad baseball. I didn't want to watch boring baseball. They're providing you excitement. Now, there's some badness in it, but that's what I make of this right now. Like, at least it's a fun brand of baseball. And let me save the text line's fingers before they get it out there. They didn't beat anybody. The Astros are hurt. Yeah, they beat them. Like, if the Astros are hurt, that's on the Astros, man. If they don't have the proper depth to take on the Cardinals, then don't act as if you're a World Series contender this season, because the Cardinals took on the team that was on their schedule and they beat them. That's the only thing that matters for a rebuilding team. So I'm not going to put the conductor hat on. I'm not going to start talking about buying at the trade deadline or going on a run in the playoffs. I'm going to talk about how this is an exciting team, and this is the perfect way to begin a rebuild.
Yeah, they took advantage of, they did what we said they needed to do, right? They took advantage of an injured pitching staff over the weekend, but I still can't help but have that intrusive thought of, like, are we still sleeping on the Cardinals offense? I mean, look at the power that they showed this weekend. I didn't think they were going to hit for any power this year, and yet they continue to slug the baseball, surprisingly.
Derek laughed when I asked him where the power was coming from this season.
Yeah,
like, he laughed at me.
Exactly. And you know what? I felt like that was the right answer when he laughed. Because I predicted my T-Bone 3 they'd have the worst slugging percentage in baseball. And I still don't think it's going to be great. but it's a little better than I expected. And you're starting to see some guys kind of start to awaken from their slumber, right? Mason Wynn with a big weekend. I mean, hell, he was half of our audio there for the Open. You've got Ivan Herrera slowly looking like he's starting to get going, mostly because he's forcing pitchers into the zone. And then you add in the fact that Burley's 37% above league average, and we're not even talking about him. Walker is starting to slow down a little bit as Burley's really heating up. And Weatherholt just gets on base all the freaking time. I can't help
That guy's
but
a
wonder.
menace, man.
I know.
He's a nightmare to pitch against.
I think I saw he has the second highest on base percentage behind only Ohtani for leadoff hitters so far in Major League Baseball.
It's not bad. Good God. I think he's up to the lead on the Cardinals now. Yeah, he's number one on the Cardinals in on-base percentage this season.
So watching this series, I go, yeah, they took advantage of that injured Astros staff like they should have. But I also just continue to go, are they just better offensively than we expected? Now, I don't know what that means, right? That probably still means they're a 85-loss team this year because they just don't have the pitching. Like, their pitching's nothing to bank on. But the offense is the thing that makes me feel so much better about the way this year has already started. Don't think they're a playoff team, but the way that the offense is swinging the bat, I just feel so much better about where they're going.
Yeah, it gives you confidence in their direction. I don't really think, I agree with both of you. I don't think much has changed for 2026. I think they're more fun to watch than I expected them to be. I think they're a better overall team than most predicted that they would be. I don't think T-Bone now is laughing at the idea that they could be an 80 to 85 wins team. I think that's now at least
85 wins. Yes, I'm laughing.
T-Bone's text last night was my thoughts. Like, I thought we were rebuilding, man.
I think it's at least conceivable.
I don't think we know we're bad yet.
That the Cardinals are a respectable team in 2026. That to me is not a crazy thought any longer, the way that it maybe was a month ago when I put it out there into the ether. But what's really impressed me so far is their offense. And it's not always like the most productive thing in the world, but they've got 6 guys in it that I find to be really interesting. And that's a really good starting point of what the team can ultimately become for this year. Now, I talked with Derek Gould. I'm on the best podcast in baseball this week. I talked with him just a little bit ago. It'll be posted
What
later
a
on
weird
today.
flex.
Wow.
And he asked me this question, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on it.
Oh, sure. Act as if that's why you brought it up. You could have just said, I was asked this question earlier today.
By a friend.
We good?
I don't know. Are we? You got any more plugs you want to throw out there? When's the F Chiefs podcast coming out?
It's already out, but we'll have another one live on Thursday. We don't have to talk about that right now.
Boom. I tossed that one up for him in this out of the park.
I am an award-winning columnist in Illinois,
you're
by the
not.
way. I am. The
No,
Illinois
you're
Press
not.
Association
That's true.
named
I
me.
didn't remember that, yeah.
No, it's just coming out. I am invited to the awards ceremony,
you
which
going?
is later next month. I'm not. It's during our show. So I
They have
won't be
an
able to
awards
attend.
ceremony in the middle of the day?
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
That's really
Well,
weird,
most
man.
people don't do radio while they're writing. Yeah, award-winning columnist in the state of Illinois, even though I don't live there. Shout out to the Alton Telegraph. So
the hell, man?
Derek asked me this question. I want to get your thoughts on it. I was on the best podcast in baseball
Shut
today,
up.
Alex.
Just ask the question.
If the Cardinals continue at this pace and they're in the playoff race by the time that we get to the trade deadline, does it change the way that you would view the future for Riley O'Brien or for Dustin May or for anybody else that could potentially be a trade candidate? Like, are you holding on to those assets and potentially acquiring from outside to bolster this roster? Or are you staying disciplined with the preseason plan despite the team looking different than what your preseason expectations were?
Yeah, no, my plans don't change. I stick to the plan of this rebuild, even if they're in a playoff spot. If they're the second or first place team in the NL Central, I stick to the plan. First of all, who's in the National League?
The Dodgers.
Yeah, so you're not going past the NLCS.
Okay.
Second of all, I think teams hurt themselves when they try and get too aggressive in any sport. If you going into a plan and you outperform expectations, if you try and jump ship and say, oh, we're better than we thought we were, let's try and push this down the road a little bit further, I think you can hurt yourself. We talk all the time, T-Bone steamheads this thing nonstop. Bullpen arms are fickle. Riley O'Brien could be elite right now. Next season, he could be awful. Capitalize on what you have on your roster. If Dustin May gets great down the road, capitalize on what you have. If you're in a rebuild, gain as many assets as you possibly can, and then let those assets develop. Because frankly, you're not going to do anything until your pitching develops, and your pitching's further away. So I don't mean to be Debbie Downer on everybody's Cardinals are great. I'm not changing course at the trade deadline, no matter where this team stands.
That's pretty much where I am as well. The only one that maybe I would change course on would be O'Brien. I might hold on to him if you're still in it, but I think you have to listen on your rentals.
Would you really?
He's 31, man.
I'm pretty surprised by hearing you say that, actually.
You hate bullpen arms.
If you're in it, I don't know that you just completely sell. I think you do a little bit of both. Hold / buy / a little bit of selling.
That might be your best asset, though.
So, you said you would trade Dustin May, though?
I would probably listen on your rentals. Yeah, I would listen on May. I don't know if May's going to get you a significant return. He's one that's tough. JoJo, I think you get a pretty good piece for, right? He's going to be one of the top lefties available at the
If you're selling
market.
those guys, though, you're not a contender anymore.
I know. I don't think you're a contender when you go to the deadline. Because I want to hold on to, I don't think you can just kind of destroy the clubhouse by saying we're selling everything, right? I think you got to at least listen to the guys. They played well enough and say, hey, we kind of have to move on from the rentals that we know we're not going to be bringing back. I don't expect JoJo to be back. Dustin May is one that they might bring back. That's why he's interesting when you get to the deadline. But I think for sure you move JoJo. I think Heim would do kind of what he did in Boston. I don't remember the exact year. I think he did a little bit of buying and selling. He sold, I think, Christian Vasquez, their catcher, and then he acquired Tommy Pham, an outfield bat. I think he would probably do something similar.
In that deal, he got Wilyer Abreu, I believe.
Yeah.
Not bad.
If you're going to pick apart your bullpen and trade away JoJo Romero, then you trade away Riley O'Brien. That's one of your two arms that you trust in that bullpen by the end of the season. And typically, relief arms, especially closers, if they're as dominant as Riley O'Brien is right now all season, man, that's the piece that could get you the best asset. Better than Dustin May, better than JoJo Romero.
Right.
And if I'm in a rebuild, I got to get some prospects. I need to add more capital.
But the reason I'm surprised by your take on this, T-Bone, is because you're somebody who says you don't develop bullpen arms. The moment that you see them being good, you trade them because you never know if that's going to be the same guy a year from now, whether it's because of injury or a decline in performance. Look at what we've seen over the last 2 years. Last year, they came into the season with Ryan Fernandez expected to be one of their top 3 relievers. By the time that we got to May, he was in Memphis, and we basically never saw him the rest of the year. And so far this season, looks like he's pretty much that second half of last year guy again. And then you look at what we have seen so far this year from Matt Swanson, who T-Bone said is going to be the best reliever in baseball.
I was there for that.
I remember when you predicted that, I think 3 weeks ago. And since that time, he himself has been a gas canister out there. It's been awful so far this season, to the point where if they were really planning to contend this season, he's probably also down in Memphis right now. But they're allowing himself to figure it out at the major league level. We could talk about if that's the right decision later on today. The reason I bring that up as it pertains to Riley O'Brien is because he's been amazing. I have nothing negative to say about Riley O'Brien's performance. And if this continues, even close to what it's been so far this year, he will be one of the most sought-after arms at this year's trade deadline. And the fact that you still have club control over him for a couple of seasons would, to me, be even more reason to trade him. Not more reason to keep him, because you could get even more for him at the deadline, because the club control adds something for a player like Riley O'Brien and their value at the deadline. So to me, I think you stay disciplined. They've talked about it all offseason of how this is the plan, and we're not deviating from the plan. And that plan should include trading Riley O'Brien if he gets to the deadline and he's somebody that's a sought-after commodity. I agree on JoJo Romero. The one guy that I'm not sure would be Dustin May. And that's more because, could he become part of the plans for 2027?
Oh, I think if you're selling...
That one I find to be more interesting.
If you're going to sell O'Brien, if you're in it... Because the only reason I would keep O'Brien is if you're in it, to be clear. If they're out of it, I'm with you guys. I would 100% sell him. But if you're going to just decide, hey, we are going to sell even though we're in this thing, May's out the door for me, right? I think you then have to move on from him. And you just say, you know what? We are deciding that we're just pulling the plug on this year because we're sticking the course. We don't care that they have surprised us and are in the race for the wild card or holding a wild card spot or, hell, even leading this division. Then I think you just have to sell everything, right? I think you then have to say, yeah, we are going to move on from Dustin May. And it's not even a conversation. It is he is gone, and we're going to open that spot up for Dobbins probably for the rest of this season. And then we'll see what we do depending on if Quinn Matthews or Montz develop.
I'm flabbergasted, T-Bone.
Well, the question was if they're in it. And I think if you're in it, I don't think it's a good
No, I mean Riley O'Brien.
I know.
Oh, I thought you were talking May.
No, May I could care less. I don't think he's that great a pitcher. But when you are in it, which is what the caveat was in this, I don't know, even if you're in the rebuild, that you want to just pull the plug on this young core, basically by telling them, this is great, Jordan Walker. JJ, you've been awesome. Avon, great season along with Burley. Mason wins back to 500. That is great. You guys are in a playoff spot. Congrats. We just traded your 2 best bullpen arms, and the one that had control we've also sent away.
Yeah, that's the way that I think they know this season is going. Exactly. Yeah. Like that. It's not as though they sold them on something different. Everybody and their mother knew what this season was for the St. Louis Cardinals. They set the expectations properly. And if
they set the expectations properly for fans on the outside.
And for people on the inside.
I think for the guys on the inside.
You don't think the guys on the inside realized when they traded away Contreras and Arenado?
Had an idea, but I think the players
and
inside
Donnie,
that locker room,
best
if
player
they're playing
in their
well,
leadership position,
I think those guys took the reins, and if they are playing well, those guys in the clubhouse are not going to be saying, it's a rebuild. Yeah, okay, it's a rebuild. We should just send away some of our best pieces and some of our closest friends.
They could continue to play despite the front office the way that they have so far this year. Like, that's my thing, is you just continue to prove people wrong. They take away Brendan Donovan. They take away Wilson Contreras. They take away Sonny Gray. It doesn't matter. We're still good. Look at those guys compared to where we're at. Dude, the teams that they traded them to are worse than the Cardinals. The Red Sox right now are worse than the St. Louis Cardinals. The Seattle Mariners are basically the same right now as the St. Louis Cardinals. Donnie's been awesome, but their team overall is 10-13 on the season. The Cardinals are outperforming the teams that are trying to win.
You know what's so funny about this?
I can't believe we've flipped spots.
Well, but last season, I made this same argument that T-Bone's making about Riley O'Brien as to why you don't trade Braden Shen. Because, like, the younger guys, they got a taste of it. And T-Bone was like, get Shen out of here. And then
the argument for Shen wasn't about, like, his play. It was his leadership. And O'Brien...
That's basically what you're saying.
No, you hang on to a piece that's got some control.
These flowers will wilt if you trade away
Shen
one
had
of their
control.
friends.
Shen had 2 more years.
Yeah, but he was old and kind of
So
washed
is
up at that point.
O'Brien
He's not washed up, though.
O'Brien is our age.
He's apparently in his prime.
Riley O'Brien is the same age as Alex
I
Reyes.
know.
What's the prime of a bullpen arm? Because that prime is gone the next year.
Apparently 31 for O'Brien.
I just love it, man. Oh, God,
This
T-Bone.
dude's closer to retirement than he is a typical rookie season. And T-Bone's like, we can't get rid of him. He's a bullpen arm.
The young guys need him.
It's crazy.
Tanner, you're getting destroyed right now, man. Mostly from me and BK.
I can't believe I'm taking crap from this award-winning journalist.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone
In
on
Illinois.
BK. Not journalist, columnist.
Oh, sorry.
He voices his opinion in his pieces. He doesn't report on things. That's where he gets his awards from.
I don't know where I placed. They haven't announced that yet. That's
Third
what the dinner's
probably, because
for. I'll
if
let
you
know.
used tone in your articles,
Can we
people
go
aren't
to a
gonna vote
live stream
for
of
you.
it while you're doing the show?
I was
Can you give an
top
example?
4 in Illinois for daily sports columnists. So thank you. I appreciate all of the
Nobody's
kind
clapping.
words.
Nobody's
It has
clapping.
to be a little
Nobody's clapping.
Coming up in
2 other
15
people are
minutes.
ghostwriters. He beat AI.
We'll dive into some NFL quick hitters. A lot of news in the NFL over the weekend. And man, these NFL reporters, man, they're trying really hard to drum up interest for the draft. So I hope you guys are listening.
Good, I need it.
I was going to say, I'm not very interested.
Coming up next, though, the Blues have a very clear outlook for Dylan Holloway, and I don't get the sense that it includes a long-term extension. We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN. Hey, it's BK, and it is time for you to unlock your inner champion. There's one place to do so. It's with Victory Men's Health. Check them out today. They have 4 great locations across the St. Louis area, and you can visit them online today at victorymenshealth.com. When you get to the website, go to the top right corner of the page, click Get Started, and when you get there, you can put in your name, email, phone number, tell them BK with 101 ESPN sent you, and tell them what it means for you to unlock your inner champion. Maybe for you, that's low testosterone symptoms that you've been feeling. Maybe it's weight loss goals that you're trying to meet. Maybe it's learning more about the vitamin infusion programs or red light therapy, cardiovascular testing. Whatever it means, it's different for everybody. They can unlock your inner champion today over at Victory Men's Health. They've helped me out. For me, and then going in there, finding out where all my micronutrients were at, getting this lab done for me. I go back in, they give me all of my results, and then they personalized a plan for me. Now, each and every month, I get a package in the mail. It's got all of the nutrients, all of the different supplements that I need. That is how I unlock my inner champion. They can do the same thing for you today at Victory Men's Health and victorymenshealth.com. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. So, Alex, you were out at the exit interviews for the St. Louis Blues over the weekend.
Yeah.
You were off, but you still worked. God bless you, man.
I'm a grinder. Yesterday, I cut up all that audio, so everybody at this radio station had it.
And I'm sure they will all take advantage of that. So, Alex, Doug Armstrong was asked about Dylan Holloway in particular. And I don't know if I was surprised by this answer, but I do think it lays out a pretty clear path for what the offseason will be for Dylan Holloway. Go ahead and take a listen.
It will be open-ended. Again, where I look at a player like Philip Broberg, like he started the season one area and he ended in the same area, and it was in the same, 4 or 5%. Dylan Holloway did not start the year where he ended it. So Dylan Holloway has to prove to himself and the league that he's an 82-game player to that level that he played at the end. I think he is, but what I think is really irrelevant. It's what he does. And so there's more based on what Broberg did to what Holly did. There's more gray in that area than him. Now, and that's just being an honest answer that, we need consistent 82-game play. I think he's got it in him. I sure do. But I can't say it. I can't have it both ways, saying I don't look at the post-Olympic thing as, when teams aren't taking us serious, and you do all your scoring when no one takes you serious. Well, when teams are taking us serious, how do we play? And we all have to answer that. We all have to answer that question better.
I don't think Dylan Holloway's going anywhere, Alex. I think he's going to be here. I think they probably get some kind of a bridge deal done. But when I heard that answer, I got the sense that this is not a situation where they're going to be going super long-term with Dylan Holloway, unless it's on the Blues' terms. Did you walk away feeling the same?
Yeah, I walked away feeling as if there's no appetite to go long-term with him right now. Now, that's from the Blues' perspective. If Dylan Holloway's side comes to the table and says, look, we want to stay long-term, 6x8 we're willing to sign, I don't think the Blues would just walk away and be like, no, you can't stay healthy, we're not doing that. Because, yeah, there's risk involved, but you're also getting probably a really good player, in my opinion, a guy that could put up 90 points when healthy for an entire season for cheap, especially for what those guys are going to go for in the next few seasons. But I say all of that to go with the Blues are going to make sure it's under their terms. If they were to go long term, there's going to be protection involved with it of like, yeah, we're not giving you no trade for a couple of years because if an injury pops up, then we're going to look to move on. I don't know what the appetite for a bridge deal is because you just don't see them in the NHL. Like typically bridge deals are like 2 or 3 year deals. And for a guy like Dylan Holloway, you could do that. You'll be 27 years old. Yeah, you'd be walking up to free agency, but there's not as much protection there. So yeah, I heard Doug Armstrong talk and it's like, yeah, I don't know how much of an appetite there is to lock him up long term. But I also look at this as one, Alex Steen's going to be the one making that decision. And two, if Dylan Holloway's side says we want a little more insurance because of the concern of that, and if they come to the table with a deal that's friendly to the team, I don't think the Blues would just walk away from it.
I don't think 6x8 is friendly to the team.
I don't either.
I think for Dylan Holloway it is, if you have any belief in Dylan Holloway.
They clearly don't, though, in terms of his health. And I think that's the big caveat there.
I don't think it's that they don't believe in it. They just have to see it.
They have 3 more years of control over Holloway, no matter what. So if I'm the Blues, why am I giving you $8 million per year when I don't know if you... And I'm saying this from the perspective that we just heard from Army. I agree with you, Alex. I would do that deal. I believe in Dylan Holloway. But from what we just heard, I think there are some more questions internally than what I maybe have on the outside. So if I'm Doug Armstrong or Alexander Steen, I think I'm looking at a 3-year deal. And maybe it is $6 million per year, $5 million per year, something like that. But I think they probably take this up to UFA and say, all right, prove it. Prove it to us that you can stay healthy over the course of a full season and produce over the course of a full season. And if you do, you're going to get paid. You're going to get paid $10 million a year potentially. If you can be the guy that you were after the Olympics and the guy that you were last year after the Four Nations face-off before you got hurt, if you can be that guy consistently, you're going to get paid in a huge way. But right now, we can't do that yet because we're not sure if that's real.
The other thing that he said that I think is important to put into consideration of the contract with him is he talked about performing when it was most important, because we'll get to it later on in the show, but Doug Armstrong put zero stock into what the team and that line did down the stretch. But he referenced 3 games in terms of when the pressure was at its peak, the team didn't perform. LA, San Jose, Colorado. And in those 3 games, as great as Dylan Holloway has been this season, in those 3 games, he was a total of 2 points, both assists, and wasn't even on the ice. That line didn't have the same success in that stretch against those 3 teams when pressure was most important versus the rest of the stretch. And what Doug Armstrong's point was, like, these guys are putting up incredible numbers, but they're 2 times where the pressure didn't matter as much. So I think not only is it health with him, I think they also want to see what it looks like in October and November when, 1, you're healthy, and 2, how do you perform when the season's most important? Because that's when guys get paid, when they show up when the team's desperate for you.
And if I'm Holloway, I would say, well, I wasn't healthy, therefore I couldn't perform. Like, I think it's an explanation, not an excuse for him.
And you also had me under Drew Bannister early on, who played me as a third-line center. And then I played with, at the beginning of this season, I was juggled around playing with Pius Suter and Nick Bukestad. Like, Shan, there was no consistency with him. And so now it's like there's areas to explain if you're Dylan Holloway.
No doubt. I get it. And I'm a big fan of his game. I think the guy rocks. I think he's an awesome hockey player, and I would love to see him sign long-term. By the way, did you mean 6 years, $8 million, or 8 years, $6 million?
I said 6 years, $8 million.
6 years by 8? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't get the sense after just hearing that from Doug Armstrong that that's something that they're going to have the appetite for. Now, if it was 8 by 6, I don't think 8 years, $6 million per year. I think the team would do that. I do not think Dylan Holloway would agree to it.
That'd be dumb for Holloway to do that.
I think he could get $6 million a year for the next 3, and then you see what's out there after that. And if you're him, there's just too much risk that I'm well underpaid by signing that 8-year contract at $6 million per year. We had a question on the text line. That's why I asked that.
I've seen a couple people that are saying, yeah, but if he goes out and he puts up 50 goals in the next 2 years, he's going to be too expensive. Man, that's what they want. They want Dylan Holloway to go play 82 games and score 50 goals. And guess what? If that guy costs you $13 million,
great.
It's well worth it to pay that player if he does it consistently. But what you said is the correct answer, BK. He's not going anywhere. He will be here up until 2029, 2030 season, and then they'll decide what they want to do from there when he's 27 years old.
Yeah, you've got Dylan Holloway. He's going to be around, and it's just a matter of what does the contract situation look like. Honestly, a lot of this kind of reminds me of the J.J. Weatherholt conversation that we had. It's different because there are different points of their respective careers and the questions are different. But like, I've become a villain because I do not think that the Cardinals should extend J.J. Weatherholt. I don't think there's much of a reason to do so right now. And I would say the same thing is true from their perspective with a guy like Dylan Holloway. They just don't need to. They can. If it's on their terms, if the player comes to them and says, hey, I'm going to take a well below market value contract because I want to be here, then sure, yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. But barring that, and I don't think that's likely to happen here with Holloway, I just get the sense that the Blues and the player are probably going to be most agreeable to some kind of a bridge deal where it only takes you up for the next few years, get yourself up to unrestricted free agency, and then we probably have this exact same conversation in 2 years, where he's got 1 year left on his deal, and then it's contract extension time for the Blues, where they go into that offseason saying, we are going to pay Holloway one way or another. We'll see what that contract looks like.
Yeah.
And then it becomes about, hey, how did you perform over the next 2 seasons?
It's crazy because you're going to hear this pricing and be like, people were complaining about that, but understand when it was, when Jaden Schwartz got his contract extension, it was $5.3 million, and it was for a 5-year deal at 5.3 when he was 24 years old. And I remember prior to that Stanley Cup championship, people were saying, get rid of Jaden Schwartz. Because remember, he had those ankle injuries, and he was not the same guy that he was prior to him signing that contract where he scored 28 goals in 75 games, 63 points. People were like, this dude's going to put up 40 points. The following season was when he had the injury, and then the next season, people were like, what is this guy? 19 goals, 24 goals, 11 goals when he won the Stanley Cup, and then, of course, when the Blues went off. So you do have to be very cautious with this one, but, I mean, I think no matter what, the goal should be make sure Dylan Holloway is a long-term Blue, because hearing him talk on Saturday, we should be putting his name in the captain conversation because that guy sounds like a leader just as much as any of these other guys do.
We'll get to that captain conversation coming up in the 12 o'clock hour. We will hear from you, 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line. And the YouTube chat at youtube.com/101ESPN STL as well. Questions and answers coming up in about 15 minutes. But next, there was a big trade in the NFL over the weekend, and there were rumored big trades that could take place, multiple of them, in the top 10 of this year's draft. We'll get into those coming up next on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here, the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Cardinals took down the Astros yesterday 7-5 as they've won 5 straight, completing their sweep over the Astros. They'll be back in action tonight as they start a 3-game set at the Miami Marlins. Michael McGreevy will be on the mound for St. Louis. 5:40 will be first pitch tonight. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
All right, let's start out with the news that, like, a trade that actually got done over the weekend, Alex. Dive into some NFL quick hitters alongside Alex and T-Bone. I'm BK. The Bengals made a big move over the weekend. They traded for Dexter Lawrence, who is a legit all-pro nose tackle. The guy's unbelievable. Now, he's getting a little up there in age, and it seems pretty clear he just didn't want to be with the Giants anymore. He was sick and tired of the losing in New York. He wanted to go somewhere else. Bengals said, we'll take him. And they were willing to give up a haul for him. Alex, they gave up the 10th overall selection. I was waiting to see what the rest of this trade was, because I figured, like, okay, well, if they're getting the 10th overall pick for Dexter Lawrence, the Giants probably gave up a second-round pick or something in return. Nope. It's straight up 1-for-1. The 10th overall selection going to the Giants. The Giants trade Dexter Lawrence to the Bengals. What was your takeaway from this trade, Alex?
It's probably the opposite of most people. I liked the trade. I saw a lot of reaction of like, wait, you just gave up the 10th overall pick in a draft that's deep of defensemen for a guy that's already 28 years old. Yeah, because if I'm the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm in win now mode. And I need a guy that can help me now, not somebody that can help me in a couple of years. So I don't know if it's going to work for them. I think they got more issues than just the defensive line. But if I'm Cincinnati, man, 10th overall picks don't matter to me as much as a championship at some point. And if I've got Joe Burrow, if I've got this offense, I need to go after somebody that can help me win right now. So I thought it was a very smart, aggressive move. Now, the only way it pays off is if you win. Because if you lose and you trade a 10th overall pick and the guy becomes a stud, it's going to look like a bad trade by the Bengals.
Yeah, I liked it. They have now added Boye Mafe, Brian Cook, Kyle Duggar, Jonathan Allen, and Dexter Lawrence to their defense since the end of last season. This is a defense that desperately needed upgrades, and they've added them. Dexter Lawrence at $28 million per year is a really good bargain, man. I thought they were going to have to pay a hell of a lot more than that for Dexter Lawrence. Now, they gave up a big asset in the 10th overall selection, but as a Chiefs fan who's been watching all of these mock drafts where you get to 9, you're like, I don't know, man, all these guys are solid. The same thing's true at 10, where you're just going to get potentially a solid player. This is not your typical draft with blue chip talent up there. I think it's a reflection of the 2026 draft that they got that kind of a return for Dexter Lawrence. So I really liked this for Cincinnati. I also think it makes sense for the Giants, given where they're at as an organization. This was one of those rare win-win kind of trades where both teams get what they needed out of it. But for the Bengals, I kind of loved the deal, honestly.
Yeah. And Giants, you're right. Like, it makes sense on the Giants, too, because you go younger.
Yeah, I love the deal, too, and it's because of what you just said about the draft. If we're looking at this draft going, man, there's not a lot of the elite players at the premier positions, so do I want to hang on to 10 and, like, get, like, a okay, like, offensive tackle or an okay, like, linebacker or okay defensive end or get an elite linebacker? If I'm the Bengals, I'm looking at this going, man, we need someone that can get to the quarterback, and we've been wasting Joe Burrow's prime years. We need to be aggressive. So I love the move from the Bengals' perspective. You're right. It makes all the sense in the world for the Giants. They're rebuilding on a rebuild on a rebuild. So I love the move from both perspectives.
Yeah, if you're the Giants, you could now potentially get, like, Sonny Styles at 5 and maybe Caleb Downs, the safety out of Ohio State, at 10. And now you're starting to reshape what your defensive roster looks like as well, but you're doing so with the future in mind, whereas the Bengals are doing so with the present in mind.
If this was a deep draft, I think this would probably be a mistake. Yeah. Just because then you get like the 5th-year option. You're looking at a guy that's at, the back end of his 20s here in Lawrence. Like, if this was a deeper draft, I would say, I don't know what the Bengals are doing.
Overly aggressive.
Yeah. Now, though, like this draft, okay, yeah, it kind of makes sense.
Speaking of this draft, there's a lot of buzz around the number 3 overall pick. The Arizona Cardinals have the number 3 overall pick right now. And I say right now for a reason, because it sure sounds as though they are trying like hell to get out of that pick. They would love nothing more than for somebody to come on up and draft probably David Bailey, the Texas Tech edge rusher at number 3 overall. However, there are new reports that are coming out
I hate however.
that the Cardinals are interested in Jeremiah Love with the number 3 overall pick. Jeremiah Love, St. Louis native, running back from Notre Dame, absolute stud. Like, he legitimately might be the best overall player in this year's class. He just plays running back, and so typically you don't see those guys go in the top 3. Arizona is also not a team, Alex, that I think is ready to take a running back.
You think?
This would be very similar to me to the Raiders last year, taking Ashton Genty in the top 10. How would you feel if that's the answer? You get number 3 is on the clock. They can't find a trade down partner, and it is announced the Cardinals taking former Notre Dame running back Jeremiah Love. How are you feeling with that?
I think it's a dumb move by the organization. You take Jeremiah Love when you think he's the missing piece to help you win a championship. You don't take Jeremiah Love when you're literally starting from ground zero without a quarterback, without an offensive line. Your defense is probably going to be in shambles soon. Heck, you don't even really know what they brought in the new coach, right? Why am I blanking on who the new coach is? Is it the dude from the Eagles?
The guy that had a cup of coffee with the Rams.
Oh, ROC.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you guys sound very excited about him. So that plays into my point of, like, you don't even know what
it's LaFleur's brother.
You don't even know what your leadership looks like. So I think this is a move. Honestly, I think this is them trying to make people think they're going to take him so that they can trade the pick. But if they do take him, I will once again believe the Arizona Cardinals are a poorly run team.
I actually think it would make sense if they took him at 3.
Wow.
And the reason I say that is if you're trying like hell to trade out of it because there's not a premier position, running back is not a premier position to be taking at number 3 overall. I agree. It's not ideal. But if you're not getting anything worthwhile to trade out of that spot and you have to make a selection, I'm going best available. And a lot of people seem to think Jeremiah Love is one of the best players, if not the best player in this draft class. If that's the case and you're the Cardinals, I think you have to take him then, right? You can't just sit there and say, well, maybe we'll settle on like the Edge and Bailey that we don't really think is the best player available, but we'll go ahead and draft him, even though it's a premier position, but we're not sure how good he really is. No, I think you take the best available player. And if the answer is Jeremiah Love is the best available player, you have to take him at 3 overall, in my opinion.
From the 618, Love to Arizona is just a smokescreen. They're trying to get draft capital to trade back to get a tackle.
It's one of the worst smokescreens I've seen.
If it's a smokescreen, it makes no sense. Guys, teams aren't trading up to draft Jeremiah Love.
Yeah.
And I love Jeremiah Love. Nope. Apologize for the...
Well, man, he should go to the Packers then. If you could have Love on Love, man, you're just... Packers are going to win every year. Yeah.
I think he's an awesome football player, but teams don't trade up for running backs. Teams trade up for edge rushers. If they want this to be a smokescreen, say you're taking one of the tackles. Say you're taking one of the edge rushers. That's the way you get somebody to move up with you, because those are the players that have the positional value and the pedigree to make a big move up for. So I don't think, if you want people to believe that, I think you're going about it potentially the wrong way. I think this is real. I think there is somebody in the organization, I don't know if it's the GM, the head coach, somebody though, and they want Jeremiah Love on the roster. And if that's the case, I'm kind of with Alex. Man, if you think he's special, you think he's a Hall of Fame talent, and you think this draft just stinks, basically what you're doing is shorting the 2026 draft. Guess what? You wouldn't be the only one to do so. It seems like all the GMs across the league are like, yo, this top 10 stinks. It's terrible. We think there are good players to be had here, but it's like 20 to 40, a typical 20 to 40 range is going in the top 10 this year. If that's how you feel and you think Love is special, you think he's Bijan Robinson, you think he is Jahmyr Gibbs, go ahead and take him, man. It's probably not going to pay off for you in 2026, but maybe it could as soon as 2027. So it's kind of the way that I view it. All right. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. It is officially NFL Draft Week, so we'll have your coverage for you throughout the week here on BK and Ferrario. By the way, more reports emerging. It sure seems as though A.J. Brown is going to be a Patriot by June 1st. This one not coming from Diana Rossini. It is instead coming from Adam Schefter.
Got the joke before I got the joke.
Coming up next, questions and answers here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK, 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. From the 314, guys, in your opinion, what has been the biggest surprise from a positive or a negative perspective on the Cardinals other than Jordan Walker?
I mean, mine's been for how bad your bullpen has been. I did not think it was going to be this bad. Now, a lot of this is because they don't have Swanson. And, I mean, when you have three arms to use late in games, you're typically fine. It's just getting to that point. But not having Swanson and having to rely solely on Riley O'Brien to save your bacon, I didn't expect them to be that bad. I thought they'd at least have 4 or 5 pieces in there that could keep it competitive.
Yeah, that would be the disappointing one for me, is the bullpen. And it really just comes down to Swanson, really. I mean, he's the biggest disappointment so far out of the pen. I would say the surprise for me, and I was more of the lone wolf on this, is just J.J. Weatherholt's performance at the big leagues, and it's twofold. One, I thought he would be more of like a league average hitter in his first year, because I thought, hey, rookies, they struggle. I don't think that's going to be the case. He's almost 20% above league average now. I think that's probably where he's going to end up being, somewhere in that range. And then the other part that has surprised me is his defense. He looks like a Gold Glove caliber second baseman already, which is incredible, because in spring training he had a little bit of the yips early on in spring, and he's just settled down into being a really good fielding second baseman. So he's been my biggest surprise so far, outside of Walker.
And he's not hitting for average yet.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing, is like his best carry tool is that he is a really good hitter. Like, it's his hit tool. And so far this year, that's really been the worst thing that he's had. So it's been a very impressive start to his season. If I'm going to go different for disappointment, I don't know how shocking it is, but Victor Scott, I think, has been really disappointing so far this year. He has not been great defensively in center field. He's made a couple of plays, but overall, I think the arm has been a problem for him. He only has 3 stolen bases. 2 of those came on opening day. So in the last 20 games for him, he has 1 stolen base. He's only getting on base 27% of the time. He does not have any power to speak of so far this year. It's just been, from my opinion, a really disappointing start to the year for Victor Scott, especially given how much hype he had coming out of spring training. So he'd be the guy for me that I'm pretty disappointed in relative to expectations. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line from the 636. Guys, if Mizzou were to add a legitimate point guard to the mix, do they have the talent and ability to make it to the Elite Eight? I mean, they have the number 1 recruiting plus portal class so far. So, yeah, I would have to say they do.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think if you're able to get that point guard, they've done a pretty good job of upgrading when it comes to like rebounding, getting their bigs that they've been looking for. You add in some of those freshmen that'll come in that can score the basketball. They've got the making of what should be about an Elite Eight run. So I would say, yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, I think so. The only hesitancy I have is Dennis Gates. I don't know if he has the ability to coach up that talented of a team, but you're going to find out.
The thing that I would say, my pushback to that, even though I think it's a fair criticism, Dennis Gates so far has basically coached to the talent that he had on the roster. Like, so far in his Mizzou career, he has not had a team, and this is a criticism of him and his recruiting, to be fair, he has not had a team that has the talent to be able to go far into a tournament. That's on him for not getting that talent to Mizzou. He's basically been at expectations thus far, outside of that weird year where everybody got hurt and they lost every game in conference play. This year will be the test of what Alex is saying. If they don't get to the second weekend of the tournament, despite having probably a top 15 roster in terms of the talent that has been assembled, that will be a reflection of Dennis Gates. So there's a lot of pressure on him to get it done. All right, from the 636, earlier today on TMA, they reviewed an article that said the most likely Cardinal to be traded this year is Riley O'Brien. O'Brien has 4 more years of club control. Isn't cheap with control exactly what the Cardinals want and need right now? If so, why would this even be entertained? We have differing views on this, certainly in this room. Cheap, controlled, absolutely is exactly what the Cardinals are looking for right now. I would say that is mostly the case from a position player and rotation perspective. The bullpen is wildly volatile. Year to year, you never know what you're going to get with those guys. There are a few pitchers in Major League Baseball that come out of the bullpen that are exceptions to that rule, right? Every year, you know what, I don't know, like Mariano Rivera is going to be. But those guys are Hall of Famers for a reason. For a guy like Riley O'Brien, who has not shown the ability so far in his career to stay healthy or productive, this is when I would cash in on that trade chip if he continues to perform the way that he has so far this year.
Yeah. Cheap, cost-controlled arms are great for a team that's trying to win right now. They don't matter to a team that's in rebuild mode, that isn't trying to win the whole thing for 3 to 5 years.
In the bullpen.
In the bullpen, yeah, that's what I mean. If this was a starting pitcher, if this was a position player, then yeah, we're not even having this conversation. It's a bullpen arm that could realistically look like Matt Swanson next year. You cash in on those chips, especially when the hottest commodity at the trade deadline is typically bullpen arms, guys that have closing experience.
That's what I was going to say. If you're out of it and you're selling O'Brien, or even if you're in it and you decide to sell O'Brien, it's because of the value you're getting back in return, because of just how fickle the industry is of bullpen arms. Look at where you can find these guys. Anybody remember how they acquired Riley O'Brien? It was like a cash deal from the Seattle Mariners.
We were excited about it at the time.
Were we?
Yeah. I remember.
I don't remember that at all. I just remember seeing it
because
as thinking it was a depth move.
yeah, and the first time we saw him, we almost hit a guy in the face, and we were like, "What the?"
But this is my point on this is like, why would you trade a cost control arm? You can find them anywhere. No one ever heard of Riley O'Brien until he was acquired here. Anybody heard of Ryan Fernandez before they picked him up in the Rule 5 draft and he had a really good year and then he just disappeared?
George Soriano, remember that one? He's been good so far this weekend, notwithstanding.
Yeah, acquired in the Granito deal. You can find bullpen arms anywhere. You can get them on the cheap in the free agent market. Some teams go out and spend for them when you've got the proven guys. You can find them in the Rule 5 draft. There's so many different avenues to where it's not hard. Meanwhile, starting pitching, it's hard to develop and find that. Look at the game today. It's hard to find those guys. It's hard to find cheap and cost control position players that are above league average at the major league level. So you trade bullpen arms if they're good.
He's T-Bone. That's Alex. I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. It's 12 o'clock. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Coming up next, Alex was out at the Blues exit interviews over the weekend. He heard from Doug Armstrong and Jim Montgomery as it pertains to the captaincy this offseason and how they view that. Are they planning to name a captain or not? Interesting comments that we will play for you next here on 101 ESPN. With Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. The Blues were all in attendance over the weekend as they had their exit interviews with the media. Alex Ferrario was in attendance. Appreciate him for getting all this audio for us here on 101 ESPN. And both Doug Armstrong and Jim Montgomery were asked, specifically Alex, about the captaincy and what the plan is there now that it's vacant for the Blues. Let's start with Doug Armstrong's answer to the question whether or not that is something that is necessary for the team to name this offseason.
I'll sit with Alex and Jim about. I think the league has evolved into more of a leadership by committee, but I'm not dead set on one path yet.
All right, so he says, got to get with Alexander Steen, get with Jim Montgomery. They'll come together with a plan. So let's hear from Jim Montgomery. What does he think about the possibility of naming a captain this offseason?
I don't think it's necessary to have a captain if you don't have a captain. And I don't know if we do or not. You know, that's going to be a lot of discussion for, Army and Steener with myself. Ultimately, it's GMs that drive that decision because that's a culture decision. It's a long-term vision decision of who's going to be the right captain to lead the Blues. But I don't think we necessarily have to have one next year. Boston hasn't had one this year. They're a playoff team and significantly improved. And there's other teams that have done it. They've waited. Now, if you think you have the right person, you should name a captain. That's the way I feel about it. But we do have a relatively young core now. So I don't have the answer for you, but those are my philosophy on captains.
San Jose is the other team that doesn't have one. Philadelphia named one this past season, but they prolonged having one. The Anaheim Ducks prolonged naming one. This is not uncommon in the NHL. And I think it seems uncommon for Blues fans because it's the Blues. Like wearing that C means more than just a letter on the vest or on the sweater. I walked out of that thinking they're not going to name a captain, and here's why. Both of them answered the same way of it's not necessary to have one, and don't name one if you don't have one. And the end point of what Jim Montgomery said there of, like, we've got a younger team, I also asked him, and it's a long answer so we can't play it, I asked him the growth of leadership from individual players and who stuck out to him. And he went into a lengthy answer on saying, Philip Broberg has become a leader on this team to basically, if you're not going hard at practice, he's going to expose you. Robert Thomas, he said, has become a vocal presence in that locker room before and after games. He said Jake Neighbors is a vocal presence on the bench. Colton Parayko is a guy that is texting with Jim Montgomery about how to handle the roster. And he said Jordan Binnington is just a captain because everywhere he walks, he's a presence for all of these guys. That's 5 guys. And he also didn't mention a Dylan Holloway who's got a presence to him. When he said they're a younger team and it's not always necessary to name a captain, I started looking at it and thinking it's like, okay, they've always had the captain and they've always underwhelmed. I really wonder if they look at this and saying, to avoid any more issues, let's go a season without it. Let's let all of these young guys develop their own leadership core, develop their own locker room chemistry, and let that captaincy slowly develop. I don't think there's a point in naming a guy because I don't think there's a voice right now that stands above the rest. Braden Shen stood above the rest. Justin Falk stood above the rest. Colton Parayko might be the closest piece to it. 1, you don't know if he's here. And 2, you don't know how long he's going to be here. And another piece that Doug said was, you're not going to name a captain who's not here for the long term. So I truly believe they may go into this season and say, you know what? We are going to let this thing naturally figure itself out. We are going to let Thomas and Neighbors and Holloway and Broberg all become the vocal pieces of this team. And when we feel it's necessary to name a captain, we'll name one. But we're not just going to all of a sudden say, you're the captain. It's a lot of pressure on a team that underwhelmed this year and has slow starts to worry about.
I do wonder what Steen feels about that.
That's the part that is the wrench in all of this because Steen values leadership.
Because it's one thing for Army to say that. It's another thing for Monty to say that. Steen is the one that's ultimately going to be pulling the trigger on this stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, that guy is in charge of the roster starting on July 1st. So if he says, this is silly, I've been in those locker rooms, I know what the value is of a captaincy, you need somebody to be able to have that as like a sign of who they are, right? It is symbolism for status inside of the locker room. And if he views it that way, you're going to have his captain. Because last time I remember they went about it this way, and they went into the offseason, and I remember Army at the time saying, I just don't know how much value there is in this anymore. It's a different role than it used to be. It's not the same thing that it once was. And maybe we just go into the season and we don't name a captain. And then we got a month later, 2 months later, and I was like, yeah, we got a captain.
Was it Berube was the one that pushed for it, right?
Berube did. I think he talked to a bunch of his inner circle people, and they all told him, like, you need a captain. You're going to want somebody to be in charge of the locker room.
But remember, this is going to be a different inner circle group now with Alex Steen.
Exactly. And so that's how I don't know the answer this time around. But I am skeptical. I know you walked away, Alex, this weekend saying, like, I think they're not going to have a captain. I am more skeptical of that. In part because I wasn't there, maybe, and also in part because I've seen this exact story play out before, and it ended with them having a captain.
And the hard part is there an obvious choice? Like, I think if you were to ask 10 different Blues fans, you'd get 10 different answers, or maybe 5 different answers of captains. I think a lot of people believe it's Robert Thomas. I think a lot of people believe it's Jake Neighbors.
I think
that's it.
No,
I think Neighbors would be the, like, 70-30 in favor of the captaincy, but I think the problem about it is Thomas is kind of the face of the franchise and the guy that wants to be the captain, and we've had this conversation a lot. How does he react if he doesn't get it, and what does that mean for the Blues in the long run?
I think you'd be surprised people would bring up Parayko's name because of the tenure and being here, and I think you'd be surprised at how many people would bring up Broberg's name.
Are you talking about fans?
Yeah.
Or are you talking about, like, people around the organization?
I'm talking fans. Because
I've never heard a fan bring up Broberg.
I think you,
as a captain?
I think you'd be surprised because of how he plays on the ice.
I bet you if I put out a poll on Twitter right now.
We do need to make a poll for that.
We do. We haven't had one yet.
Who do you want to be the next Blues captain? Because that's what you would want to frame, right? Not who you think will be, but who do you think?
If you put those 4 names, I believe all would get a vote.
I think there's probably somebody that would vote for Broberg. I think it would be
no. I'm
to
not,
the point where I don't even know that he would necessarily need to be included.
I'm not saying he's the obvious one. I do think Broberg's name would pop up because of how he plays, and you figure the future of the Blues, Broberg's here. Like, I'm
not disagreeing with you. I just don't get the sense, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. You're more familiar with the inner workings of this team than I am, certainly, and I'll defer to you on this. I don't get the sense that he's overly vocal.
No, he's. I don't know in the locker room. I mean, in terms of media, he's not like the most talkative, but
it seems very much more so.
Does anybody think Robert Thomas is the most talkative individual to the media?
No, but he's available.
For captain.
but behind closed doors, he's a lot more. So that's what I don't know with Broberg. So I go off of the work ethic, and I think a lot of people see how Broberg plays and says, well, that's captain material. And when he speaks, it's very thoughtful in terms of what he's saying. It's not just kind of word vomit. He's like actually giving meaning behind it. So again, I'm separating hairs here. I think you're right. A majority of the votes, it would be Thomas and Neighbors would be the 2 that pop up.
I think that's where like 85% of the votes would lie.
But we're also going off of Alexander Steen and Jim Montgomery's conversations, and I believe if you bring them into the conversation, they'll give you real reasons. Again, we can't play the cut, but he gave Jim Montgomery about a 45-second answer in terms of why Philip Broberg has taken massive steps in terms of leader.
Follow-up, because I think if you ask people internally, maybe they would throw his name into the conversation. I think that's more of why you would have an A on his chest than it is like he is the captain of the team. I think him wearing a letter makes all the sense in the world. Him being the captain of the team, I don't know, man. That feels like a pretty sizable jump there to me.
Typically, when you name those captains, though, at least in the NHL side of things, you go off of guys whose game's always there and a piece that's going to be a part of your team moving forward. And with the other 3, I could find reasons as to why he may not be a part of the team in a couple of years. Whereas Broberg, find me a reason why he wouldn't be here.
I think that's overvalued. You look back at the guys that have been the captain for the Blues in the last 10 to 15 years. A lot of them were named the captain of the Blues when you knew there's like 3 to 5 years tops that they're going to be.
I disagree with that. I think Pietrangelo, you thought he was going to be here a long term.
You didn't know.
Well, but he was under contract for when he was named. It was what, the 2016-2017 season?
I think it was only a few years that he was the captain of the Blues.
And if it was 16-17, he was gone by what?
21-22. So that was 6 years.
6 years. So he was probably longer term.
Schenn, as he was named, it had 4 years?
He was a 4-year captain. Petro was. Petro was a 4-year. O'Reilly was a 4-year. Schenn was a 3-year. Backus was 5 years. Brewer was 4 years. Drake was 2.
Don't go to the Brewer ones.
2. Like, looking back to 2001 when Pronger ended his tenure, there has not been a Blues captain that's been the captain for more than 5 years.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, when they gave those captaincies to those players, I think the thought process was he's going to be here a long time.
Right, and then it didn't work out that way. That's what I'm getting at here.
And
is
maybe that's
the best laid plans. You just don't know.
Sure.
So I think there should be less, in my opinion, less value placed upon that.
Probably, but I think from a hockey front office standpoint and a coaching staff, that's where you look towards those players and you find out. So I could be completely wrong. There could be a captain in a month, and all of us in this talking is for naught. But I walked away from that being like, they named 5 guys that they all view as leaders. They have a lot of younger pieces that I don't know if anybody has captured that role as the leader of that room. And so I think they might look at this saying, no, you know what? We're not going to have, and I'm not saying this is happening, it's just tinfoil from me. We're not going to have this name a captain and then 3 guys in the locker room think this guy should have been the captain. And so they're not happy that that guy got the captaincy. And now you've got the cliques that you got to worry about. I think this is going to be a matter of everyone is on the same playing field. Everyone is in the same level. We're going into camp. Everybody needs to show up on the same leadership level. And then from there, we'll develop some chemistry and figure out who takes that next step.
He's Alex. That's T-Bone. I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. In or out coming up next here on 101 ESPN.
Ooh, hoo, hoo, hoo.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for in or out. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you if we are in or out here on BK and Ferrario. Guys, in or out. We will see multiple major league managers fired by the time that we get to June 1st.
Ooh, this will be a fun one. How often do managers get fired that early?
Girardi did a few years ago.
Last year there were 3 fired before June 1st, I believe. It was Bud Black in Colorado. Why am I drawing a blank on who I just read this today in Ken Rosenthal's piece. Oh, Pittsburgh and Derek Shelton, and I don't remember who the other one was. There was 3, though, that got let go.
So did the Mets just hire their manager?
2 years ago?
Was it 2 years ago? Okay, so the Mets,
2 or 3 years ago,
Mets
yeah.
I think, will be one of them. Boy, I really wonder if Cora's gone in Boston. Yeah, I'll say in. I'll say we see 3 of them.
Wonder what the Phillies do.
Did they just sign him to an extension?
Sometimes
It was only
it doesn't
a
matter.
one year.
Okay, so yeah, that would probably be the third one. I was trying to figure out who the third one was, but
I also wonder what happens in Houston. I don't think it's his fault.
You kind of wonder in Seattle, too, right? Like, they pushed a lot of chips into the basket.
They're at least less of a disaster right now. They're only a few games below 500,
Yeah, they're still
whereas the
behind the
Mets
Angels,
have lost
though.
11 consecutive. And Houston is like, it's getting ugly down there right
The
now.
Royals team's kind of...
I think they could be a team that fires their manager.
Yeah, for some reason he's not getting talked about, but I don't
Yeah,
know
we'll
why
see.
not.
I think it's just because it's Kansas City, and there are fewer
fair.
expectations for a team like that.
People just always assume
nationally.
they're rebuilding from a national perspective.
Honestly, yes.
Baltimore was the team, by the way, that fired their manager last year early. That was the third one I was forgetting. I would say in, because I think there is at least 2, if not 3. Like the Royals is one that you brought up that is to keep an eye on. I wouldn't be shocked if Philly does it because of how much they've pushed their chips in and their owner wants to win and Dombrowski's willing to do whatever it takes. I don't know about Houston just because they're dealing with such injuries, but their owner's crazy, so I could see it. And the Mets, I'm surprised Mendoza's managing today. You've lost 11 in a row. You might as well fire him. I don't think you've got anything to lose.
It's the tale as old as time. When your team's bad, you fire the coach. Doesn't matter what sport. They'll find a way to do it.
Alex?
In or out, guys, the Blues find a way to trade in to the top 10 in this year's draft.
So you're saying up from 15?
Yeah. Like their pick, first pick that they take will be in the top 10.
Sure, and they've got a couple outs with the lottery, and then they could potentially trade up as well with
Doug was asked if he has an appetite for trading up to try and get a higher pick, and he said, the process that they go through is they go to the U18s that are taking place now, then they go to the combine, and he said what their staff does is they get together and they put the players in blocks, kind of like chair just moved on me. Kind of like what Scott Wheeler does. You got tier 1, tier 2, and he said if we can get into one of those blocks, then that's what we try and do. I think there's 3 outs for this team to try and move up in the draft. I think the 6th spot, the 8th spot, and the 9th spot. I think those are the 3 spots that you get. And
those are Seattle,
Florida, and San Jose.
San Jose.
And I do think they get aggressive, so I'm in. I think they get into the top 10.
I'm out. We haven't seen a lot of trades in recent years at the NHL draft. Now, maybe this year kind of reverts back to where it had been in years prior. I don't think we're seeing a lot of movement, at least not in the top half of the draft. There might be some teams that kind of move around in the back half, but I don't see them moving into the top 10. We don't see this happen much anymore in the NHL, so I'm out. Guys, in or out? J.J. Weatherholt will steal 25-plus bases this season.
I was looking at this earlier today. I'm glad you mentioned it. Did you know he leads the Cardinals in stolen bases so far?
I just looked at it. I came up with this in or out on the fly when I was looking at that.
You said 25?
Yeah.
I'll say out. That seems like a lofty number, but man, he's at 4 so far in the first 20 games of the season.
Gets on base at a high clip before he hits for average.
Man, he's a really interesting player. Right now, he's on pace for 23 home runs and like 25 stolen bases on the season. And he could potentially do that as a rookie. And he's getting on base like 38% of the time.
I'm in. I think he does it.
I think he leads the team in stolen bases at the end of the season.
I almost made that as my in or out, but with Scott's speed, we saw how much he could make up for even a low on-base percentage
I'm starting
last
to wonder how much Scott is going to be on this team by the end of the season.
It's a fair question.
Problem, though, no one's really running away with.
No, but...
Like, they've switched already. It kind of went under the radar, but over the last 4-5 games, they've did the old switch in left field and went from...
Welcome back, Nathan Church.
Church is back.
He's made some good plays, too, by the way.
Yeah.
Good defensively. He's had a couple of moments at the plate.
I also need to apologize to Jose Fermin. for the cruel things that I have said to that individual. I believe he
tried
has
to explain. He's fine.
2 home runs this season. Is that correct? No, 1 home run.
He's fine. He's not a great player, but if he's on your bench, he's fine. You can do a hell of a lot worse than having Jose
Not a
Firmino.
great player. That guy's 48% above league average.
All he does when he gets the opportunity to hit, he's hit everywhere he's been.
So
Why are
I'd
we
like
not
to-
starting him in left?
I'd like to submit an apology to the Fermin family. Apologize for anything that I had said, and you do belong on this team.
314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line for in or out. Guys, in or out. Both of the Notre Dame running backs will be selected in the first round of the NFL draft this week. I'm out. I think one of them will. The other one will not.
I don't think we're seeing that many first-round running backs.
I think
Love's
you
the
might
only one.
only see one running back selected in the top 50 this year.
I would agree with that.
It's a
I'm in on
really
that.
bad running back class.
Yeah, I'm out on this as well. I don't think you're seeing both of those guys go in the first round.
From the 314, in or out, you'd be willing to burn 4 first-round picks to get Jason Robertson on an offer sheet.
Out. So far out.
Okay.
Let me ask you it this way. Does Jason Robertson make you a Stanley Cup contender next year?
Is there a move that makes him a Stanley Cup contender
No,
next year?
probably not.
Fair point. But in this scenario, does Jason Robertson make you a Stanley Cup contender next year?
No.
So why would I trade 4 future first-round picks for it? Where
Because-
next year I might still be a team that misses the playoffs next year, and then I got Jason Robertson on my team at $12 million.
If you want me to make the case for it, I can. And it would be, you can't acquire this kind of talent in the draft anyways. So I'm burning those
He was a
first.
second-round pick.
I know, but the odds are heavily against you finding that in the second
That's
round.
fine, but I got $12 million, and I don't have my first-round pick for the next 4 years.
It would be the next 2, right?
No, it's 4. It's the
'cause it
4
has to be your
first-round
own?
picks. Yeah, it's your own. So, like, you are not having
Yeah,
a first-round
never mind.
pick until 2030.
I don't think
I'm out. 4
signing
is too
him to
many.
an offer sheet makes no sense. Now, trading for his rights, you gotta
That
convince
I
me
would
on
do.
that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that I would do, but that's not going to require 4
I forgot,
first-round
exactly.
picks.
I forgot the requirement
Yeah.
that it has to be your
Your
first-round
first-round
picks.
picks, yeah.
That
Now-
changes
now-
because you have 3 this year, and then you
Yeah.
can do the 1 next year.
That's not how
if
that
that
works.
was allowed, then I would potentially really give it consideration.
Now, what's the next level down for the compensation? Because the 12, anything above $11.7 million, it's 4 first-round picks. Now, you could sign him to $11.6 million and give up 2 first-round picks, a second and a third.
I'd do
You
that.
don't have your second-round pick.
God dang it.
That freaking Kevin Hayes.
Now, you could go back to Pittsburgh and be like, hey, guys.
We need it back again.
We need it back because you have your third round. Yeah, you have your third round pick, so you would need this year's second round pick,
You know what?
which is owned by Pittsburgh, and then you could offer sheet him.
It's only fitting that in the end, the Army's still getting bit in the butt from the Kevin Hayes
What
move.
would you give up to get your second round pick back from Pittsburgh?
Next year's second-round pick.
We don't have it, do we?
Would you give up next year's first round pick for it? Oh, no, you can't. You got to have that for the offer sheet.
Yeah.
Would you give up 2028's first round pick for it?
No.
Okay.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for in or out. From well endowed, in or out, Jordan Walker will make the All-Star festivities, even if it's just the home run derby.
Ooh,
Oh,
him
God. Him in the home run
would.
would be awesome.
It'd probably break him for the rest of the year, so it's probably a bad
cares?
idea.
God, if that was presented to you, would you tell him to do it, or would you tell him no freaking way?
Oh, I would tell him no freaking way. I mean,
Do
he
it.
would.
The
he would do
publicity
it.
for the Cardinals would be like, hell yes, do it.
This season
I'll
doesn't
say
matter.
yeah.
Have fun.
Oh, I don't want him to be broken.
Season
What do
doesn't
you-
matter. Have
I'm
fun.
serious.
I agree. This year it doesn't
He
matter.
may never get the opportunity again.
What if
You
he
can't
gives
tell
him
him
more
not.
because we might
confidence?
screw up his swing from that home run derby.
Stop it. Don't believe in conspiracy theories. They're
Where
not
is
real.
the All-Star game this year?
Philly celebrate 250 years of America.
Great. I think he's serious.
I'll say in.
No, I know
yeah.
he's serious, but it just why?
Why not? Tie it into America's pastime, America's celebration.
Do
I
all
get
of
it.
them
Makes
dress
sense.
up like the forefathers? Like, does somebody dress up as Ben Franklin
I
at the
think
home run
that'd be
derby? Instead of a bat, he's holding a kite with a key
Probably
on
Pete
it.
Alonso. No, he takes it too seriously.
he's gonna be
314-399-9646 is the Air
doing
Comfort Service text
squats.
line for in or out. Guys, in or out, Newtbar will not make his debut for the Cardinals until after the All-Star break. Say out. I think he's before then.
I
gotta
would
be
say
before
out.
the All-Star break, 'cause-
Everything still seems to be that he's on track to come off at the 60-day, when that 60-day is up. At least that's the last update I heard on him. So I'd say out.
Coming up in 15 minutes, we're going to dive into the junk drawer. But next, Jordan Walker's in a bit of a mini slump right now. How confident are you that he'll come out on the other side? We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here. The Sports Center update brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. The Cardinals took down the Astros yesterday as they sweep Houston and are on a 5-game winning streak as they head to Miami tonight to start a 3-game set with the Marlins. 5:40 will be first pitch. Max Meyer is on the mound for Miami. Michael McGreevy will get the start for St. Louis. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. You'll be saying, I love my windows.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. From the 618, how can you say a player with a 14-game hitting streak is in a slump? I'm seriously confused.
Oh, man.
From the 636, a 14-game hitting streak is now a mini-slump? Hope he can come out of it.
God, you're such an idiot, Brandon.
Jordan Walker in his last 4 games is 4 for 18 with 8 strikeouts.
Sounds like a hitting streak to me.
They're pitching him a little differently. They're now going up more often than they were previously. He is swinging and missing more often than he was previously. And yes, he is still getting hits, but it reminds me a lot of his rookie season when, yes, he was getting hits. And then right after that, guess what they did? They sent him down because they looked at it and said, that ain't sustainable. Now, this is very different.
He's going to Memphis.
His hits that he's putting together this year have real power behind them. He's hitting with authority. It's not just like he's going up there and it's a dribbler down the line. No, he's been awesome so far this season. I actually find this highly interesting, Alex, because I want to see it. I want to see what it looks like when he goes through for the first time this season what, yes, I would consider to be a mini slump. Where he's striking out a lot. He has multiple strikeouts in each of his last 4 games. That is quite different than the player that we saw off to that crazy pace for the first, 15 games of the regular season, where he was hitting everything. He was avoiding that low and away slider. Like, he was the perfect baseball player for like a 3-week stretch. And now, for close to a week, he's had more struggles. That doesn't mean he's going to the depths of hell, which is where he's been for the last 2 seasons. It just means it's been more of a struggle for him at the plate, which is natural and happens to basically every player in Major League Baseball. Now, the difference between the best players and everybody else is how quickly they're able to get out of that slump. And that's what we're about to learn. This was always going to happen with Walker. He was never going to go through 162 playing the way that he did for the first 15. So now that he's in it, what I would consider to be a mini slump, you don't have to. You can reject that. That's fine. But whatever you call the last 4 or 5 games for him, where his numbers have not been as stellar as they were previously, I am really interested to see how he responds to it. What's the plan of attack? He adjusted to the low and away slider, and he was able to do damage because of it. Now they're pitching him a little bit differently. What is his adjustment to that? Does he just lay off of it? Does he start to swing more at it and he's able to do damage? Like, what's the plan of action here? I'm very interested to see, but that's the next step for Jordan Walker in his development.
This was the plan all along by me until you broke me and finally got me to buy into Jordan Walker, was like, I want to see what it looks like when he gets his first slump. Because as great of a start as it was, he's got to hit adversity at some point. And since the series, it's literally been, I can't be beaten right now. Every single time I make contact, I'm laying off the pitches that I need to, but when I make contact, it's gone. You feel invincible. And now you get knocked down a peg. How do you respond to it? How do you adjust? Baseball has adjusted to you now that they're going in a different spot, and you've fallen flat in this 3-game series. This is the part that truly means you're fixed, or it's just a different area that they can exploit, and you go back into those mental games of how do I get out of it. So this will be fascinating for me. Does it just carry over in that series, and then this next one against Miami, he's back to normal, or does it take 2 weeks? Or does it take a month or 2 months? Because if it goes that long, then I think you got serious problems again of like when we lose the guy for a long period of time. So, yeah, the ability to adapt when Major League Baseball makes changes on you is what makes guys stars in the game.
And it's what has been his biggest problem in developing is making those adjustments at the Major League level on the fly, right? We know every player goes through a struggle, but what makes a good what separates the good players from the great players, when a guy like Bryce Harper goes through a 2-week cold spell, guess what? He makes the adjustment like that, and he gets going again. Is that going to be Jordan Walker? Is this going to be one of those mini slumps? It's going to be 2 or 3 weeks, and you're going, all right, he's just trying to figure out what baseball is doing, and then once he does, he'll come up with an answer? Or is it going to be kind of the Gorman slumps, which lasts for months at a time?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then it gets back to your point of, okay, now there is a bigger problem at hand of, okay, it's taking too long for him to make adjustments, and you can't be a big leaguer if you're only able to adjust when you get to the offseason.
Yeah, I'm not overly concerned about this right now. I just find it interesting. I think this is what you watch in the midst of a rebuild, is seeing how your young players adapt. And Jordan Walker is still a very young player. He's 24 years old. This is his age 24 season. So it's worthwhile to see what the next few weeks look like. We've had a few people on the YouTube chat that are going back and forth on this. And some of them are saying, like, guys, power hitters strike out. That happens. And yes, that is correct. Power hitters strike out. You look over at, like, Kyle Schwarber, big time strikeout numbers. And if that's going to be the profile that Walker ultimately settles in on, is, hey, he's always going to strike out 30% of the time, but you live with it because he hits 35 bombs by the end of the season, I'm more than happy to sign up for that. That's cool with me. But it requires you to, when you make contact, you're making significant contact. And that's what's changed. It's a very small sample size, but over the last 3 to 5 games, he's not making the same hard contact that he was previously. He's not getting the ball in the air as often as he was previously. I know some people hate these numbers, but for the first couple weeks of the season, Jordan Walker's expected numbers matched what his actual numbers were. Everything under the hood said, yeah, this is real. His expected batting average was 330. Expected slug was 788. Those are ridiculous numbers. Over the last 5 games, expected numbers, expected batting average, 201. Expected slugging percentage, 289. So what's happening on the field is reflected by the batted ball data. It's real. This is not him getting unlucky. It's been a legitimate difference in terms of how he is attacking the baseball lately. So I want to see what that looks like over the next few weeks. I'm also curious to see what the Cardinals' plan is here. Are they going to keep him in the lineup every day? Are they going to get him a work day? What's the plan there?
Work day.
People will not like that idea.
I know, and I don't think that's happening today, but I wonder if, Wednesday, for example, they've got an off day on Thursday this week. We know how they operate. They like having the back-to-back days where they buy an extra day. So they could do potentially a work day on Wednesday. Thursday, they come home. They've got an off day before they start up that series, a tough one against Seattle with really good pitching on the other side. Is that where, if he struggles over the next couple of days against mediocre pitching, I would say, for Miami, is that where you potentially get him that work day to get him back on track starting in that series against Seattle? I could see something like that.
I think a lot of people are going to reject that opinion.
I absolutely believe that's probably the case.
When he was bringing up attack angle and stuff, they love that stuff here in St. Louis.
They'll reject that premise.
Yeah. Sorry, bud.
Yeah. God, I can't wait for the work day when people are like, oh my God, this is embarrassing. And Brandon will just be over here sipping his coffee being like, it's fine, guys. He needs a work day. He needs to head back to the beat lab.
I think he'll be fine. I'm not overly worried about it, but I do think it's okay to acknowledge when there are struggles that are happening.
It's so funny, too.
It's been a bit of a struggle.
When people are like, guys, he's hitting. That's all that matters. Isn't it the beginning of his first season? People were complaining, all he does is hit the ball on the ground.
Well, apparently people seem to remember that very differently. People seem to think that the Cardinals broke him by sending him down to minors, forgetting that he was awesome in the second half when he got called back up, and his profile was completely different.
But the complaint was at the beginning of the season, where I believe he had a hit streak for a while.
To be fair, I'll cape for Cardinals fans here. Cardinals fans were not complaining about that. We were, and the Cardinals were, but fans were like, this is great. This guy rocks. He's hitting every game. So, this is a very unpopular opinion to take, where the guy has a 14-game hitting streak, which is pretty amazing. And he's hitting the ball consistently, but I'm trying to point out, underneath all of that, if you're able to get away from, the hitting streak of it all, there are some signs here that, hey, there are some old tendencies that are starting to show back up again. He's starting to chase more often. He's swinging and missing more often than he was previously. There's some stuff here that if he allows it to creep back into his game, yes, right now he has that 14-game hitting streak, but the next day when he doesn't get it, if he tonight were to not get a hit, suddenly we're all going to be willing to have that conversation, because then you'll look at the numbers and be like, oh, damn, he was for the last 5 games prior to not getting a hit tonight striking out every other at bat, and did have multiple strikeouts in each of those games. Like, that's where suddenly it's now okay to have the conversation, whereas today it's not, because he's got the 14-game hitting streak. So I'm trying to have it on.
Why would you pick the wrong
Preemptively get there.
Why would you pick the wrong
You always like to preemptively get there and
I-
upset people.
I will say this, even
I'm
without...
a truth teller. What can I say?
Even before...
Oh, yeah, there it is. I'm a truth teller.
You come to here to say the things you don't want to hear,
yikes.
or hear the things you don't want to hear.
Even
you said it
before
right.
BK brought up all these advanced nerdy numbers about like what his expected batting average
his
is,
oopsie?
and that's only for pitchers.
Oh, sorry.
And what his
It doesn't-
attack
it
angle
doesn't
is.
exist for hitters.
We should
Oh,
totally
does it
create.
really?
That's to
Oh,
say.
God, don't tell me about it.
There's got to be an oopsie for hitters.
Even if like I had not seen those numbers and BK hadn't told me those numbers before, it matches the eye test, right? And I think this is where it gets kind of lost, is everybody sees just the box score. And if you are seeing what he's been doing lately, and I know Cardinals fans have been locked in, you can just tell he looks different at the plate, right? BK didn't have to read those numbers for me to tell that he's looked different at the plate over the last handful of games.
The amount of texts that have just come in and says, well, way to go, Brandon. You just broke his hitting streak, damn it.
By the way, his oopsie the rest of the year, if you want his projection for the
Give
rest
me
of
his
the way.
oopsie.
115 games, 17 home runs the rest of the way is what they're projecting for him. JJ Weatherholt, by the way, projections the rest of the way. 14 homers, 55 RBIs, 12 stolen bases. So they're projecting him with like pretty close to 20 homers, 20 stolen bases. That would be a remarkable rookie season for JJ Weatherholt.
How many guys have done that at his age in the Cardinals organization?
I'd have to look, but I can't imagine it's many.
Yeah, I would
20
think, like,
homers, 20 stolen bases as a rookie?
Probably gotta go to. I don't even know when it would. Who the last one would be? Because I don't think Albert. Maybe Albert. Albert may have stolen 20 and have been like a surprise. But like those guys in the 80s, I don't think would have done it because they weren't home run hitters.
The thing that's throwing me off is like as a rookie doing it. There's guys that have probably done this, but as a rookie, having that eligibility, dude, that's a rarity in any day and age. All right, let's take a look.
You're
at
not
this.
signing that guy to a contract extension, you son of a gun.
Correct. That is exactly how I personally view it. But
I wouldn't either.
He's been very good so far this year. All right, let's take a look. Cardinals players as a rookie to have 20 home runs and 20 stolen bases. Any guesses?
Did Marp? No, Marp wouldn't have had that power.
Who?
Marp.
Oh, I thought you said Mark. I'm like, McGuire? 20 stolen bases?
Well, as a rookie, he wasn't here. So
Did Pujols do it?
no.
Okay, wow. I would have thought he sneakily would have gotten to
Carlson
20.
wouldn't have done it.
No, because he didn't get to 20 homers, I don't think.
I think he had 17.
Yeah. Gosh, I would have no
Can't even
idea.
tell you the last. It's not Piscotti.
Pham?
Colton Wong. No.
You ready
Hell
for it?
no.
Yeah.
No Cardinals hitter in the history of the organization as a rookie had 20 home runs and 20 stolen bases.
That makes sense.
This is a stupid game, man. Bleep you. Don't bring that up if there's not one to do it.
Ken Boyer was closest. In 1955, he had 18 home runs and 22 stolen bases. But no rookie in Cardinals history has ever had 20 and 20
That makes
in a
sense
single
to me.
season.
Because I thought Albert was the best chance to have, but Albert wasn't a big stolen base guy. When he would steal, he'd just get a great read on a pitcher, and back then it would be hard to do that. And then like you're thinking of all the other good teams that would have stolen that amount of bases. Like those guys in the 80s weren't home run hitters because they were more the singles and doubles than anything else.
There you go. Age 23 or younger, which is JJ's age. No Cardinals player has done it. So, like, regardless of rookie status, at this age, they've never had a player go 20 and 20 in a
Someone
season.
brought up J.D. Drew. 13 home runs and 19 stolen bases his rookie season.
Fernando Tatis in 1999 was 24 years old. He had 34 homers and 21 stolen bases. Ray Lankford in 1992 was 25 years old, 20 homers, 42 stolen bases. Those are the youngest players to do it in Cardinals history. So under the age of 26, it's only happened twice.
Tatis, I would have never gotten. I could have probably gotten to Langford. I feel like he's always a surprise to a
He's
trivia
such
question.
an underrated player in Cardinals history.
Yeah.
He was so good, man. So good. All right. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Let's dive into the junk drawer on the other side. Guys, I think I'm becoming old man yells at clouds. I think it's happening.
Welcome aboard, big boy.
So, did you guys see the controversy in Boston this weekend?
No,
with
I
the
did not.
Boston Marathon?
No.
So Nike put out, they had this like signage in Boston during the marathon, and it said something to the effect of like, runners welcome, walkers tolerated, right? So it was in front of a store. It's kind of funny, right?
I actually think that's hilarious.
It's a funny thing. Well, they got a bunch of crap for it.
It's unbelievable.
Because it was seen as pace shaming by some for the Boston Marathon.
Pace shaming.
Yep. That people
I'm
that go
sorry.
slow, they really took offense to this from Nike.
If you could walk 26 miles, I'm impressed.
Also, who cares if you walk? As long as you're staying because my wife did this, when you're staying in front of the people that say like, hey, you got to be in front of this, what does it matter?
It doesn't. I saw that and I had a tough time not reacting to it.
I would have too.
And then beyond that, did you guys see the quotes from the weekend? Ravens wide receiver Zay Flowers was on a podcast, and they were talking about John Harbaugh. And Zay Flowers was like, yeah, we were always hurt at the end of the year, and we were tired at the end of the year because Harbaugh really worked us. And we had all these fully padded practice, even toward the end of the season. And, that's why we had struggles down toward the end of the year.
I can't even say my first reaction to hearing
Zay, buddy. The CBA is free and public information. Like,
Zay
we can
no
all
more.
see.
It's pretty good. Pretty good.
We can all see how much you're allowed to have padded practices over the course of the season. I promise you, there ain't nothing in there. Like, John Harbaugh is not the reason why you guys are struggling. Look in the locker room. Your quarterback is why you struggle. The guy takes sacks every 5 seconds once he gets to the playoffs. That guy has the immune system of my toddler. Like, he's constantly getting sick and missing practices and missing games because his belly is upset. I'm sorry. I felt myself over the weekend becoming old man yells at clouds, and I don't know when or why this happened, but with multiple different news stories, I immediately reacted like, why are you being soft? Mm-hmm. And I don't know what happened to me, but it happened over the weekend, and I apologize.
I truly believe there are certain people that just wait around for somebody to say something that they can react to make them look like the bad one. Like, people will just try and find ways to point the finger at somebody else, and it is so obnoxious. Like, what do you care if somebody is just walking and getting joked at? Like, who cares, man?
I thought it was pretty good by Nike.
I did too. I thought
think
it was
pretty well done.
hilarious. Like, that is funny to me. And I would be the guy at the marathon that's walking. I would be the guy that's in front of the golf cart that's yelling at me with an air horn going, faster!
If you don't speed up, you will have to get off of the track.
And I will walk in front of that golf cart the rest of the way, because guess what? At the end, I could say I ran a marathon.
100%.
So
no, you can say you finished a marathon.
No, see, you're the problem. You're the problem. Nope.
You can't say you ran a marathon
I
if
can
you didn't
absolutely
run.
say I can ran the
I
marathon.
don't think he can.
Nope,
Because
I did.
people ask, oh, yeah, what was your time? And when you say, like, I don't know.
Who cares, man? I
I don't know
finished
what
it.
it would take to walk 26 miles.
A long time. My wife
probably-
walked like 14 of it because she was sick when she did the Disney marathon.
Probably like close to 5 hours.
Yeah.
It's probably
All
right,
I know
yeah.
is I got a sunburn sitting on the
So when
bleachers
you're-
waiting for her to
So
to
when your
end.
time is way off from most of the runners, there's going to be a lot of follow-up questions. When you claim you ran.
I was complaining about how bored I was and how much my butt hurt when she came back from her marathon where she had 102-degree fever. And I was like, man, I've been sitting here forever.
That's like saying you went through a lot as your wife went through labor.
Yeah, well, I did do. I went through a lot of that
Dude,
one.
those
you know?
beds are not exactly the most comfortable thing in
Beds,
the world.
those couches.
Yeah. And
My
they flip
God.
into a bed.
Yeah.
T-Bone, just wait.
They're not good. And when it's doing so much walking to get like water and ice chips, like, come on.
From the
we stay
6'3",
at home, right?
Yeah, do you need it?
From the 636, Pilates doing, Peloton riding, kale smoothie drinking BK has taken to yelling at people about being soft.
It's a weird
What a
transition
heel
in
turn.
life.
Hey man, welcome aboard. People always say like I'm so negative on life because I never want to talk. No, I just don't want to open my
do
mouth
find
because
it
somebody's
funny-
going to get upset.
I do find it funny you find this ridiculous of the Nike ad and people being upset about it, yet you're the guy that yells at me for sleeping till 11 on weekends.
What?
I don't understand how those two are.
I don't understand how
I'm
that's.
saying, like, do your own own thing, right? Do your own thing, don't care.
T-Bone looked at this and said, this is my opportunity to get mad at you.
Yeah.
No, it didn't work. Wait, what? No, I'm yelling at you for sleeping until 11 a.m. because you get so tired the next day because you were up till 4 o'clock in the morning.
See, you're
and
yelling
I
at
say,
me to
grow up,
right?
go to bed at a normal time.
It's not your thing to be upset about, though.
No, just grow up, man.
I am consistent on this. I do not care what you do in your personal life so long as you get everything done when you get into your professional
And you don't
life.
complain about it. That's the other thing. When people are like, oh, God, I'm so tired. What time did you go to bed? 4 o'clock in the morning? Well, I wonder why you're tired. Oh, God, my head hurts. I got a headache. Well, how much water did you drink today? None. I had coffee and then whiskey. Well, I wonder why. How's your cheese and ham sandwich? Gross. Well, I wonder why.
T-Bone has no retort. Nothing. He's got nothing to say right now because there is
All right,
nothing.
well, then I don't want to hear you complain about being tired because your kids didn't sleep last night.
I don't complain.
You decided to have 3 kids.
I don't complain.
Wasn't me.
I just,
No, you do.
sometimes you gotta let
What do you
it.
mean you don't
He got
complain?
you.
Sometimes you
He's
gotta
got
let it
you,
be
he's got
known.
you.
Sometimes you gotta let it be known.
I'm tired. 9 o'clock puck drop. Okay.
Yeah.
You chose to be the Blues pre- and post-game host.
Well, it pays to be the Blues pre and post game host. Does it pay to stay up till 4 a.m.?
So from now on, we've learned no more complaining in the office.
Yeah.
Oh, this is great.
I don't really have anything on BK yet, and I'm thinking.
He complains about other things.
I don't really complain to you guys.
I don't technically
I've
either.
got plenty of issues. That's just not among them.
BK typically
My
is the
tone
one
is
that-
awful. I project.
BK's the one that just asks me, how you doing, buddy? And that's when I respond with, bleeping
That's true.
tired.
All right, coming up in about 15 minutes. It's not a coincidence that the Cardinals offense performed over the weekend, given what they were going up against. We'll explain that coming up in about 15 minutes, but next, this response feels relatively telling for Jordan Kyrou. We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN. All right, so I got to add some context here, Alex, because for the sake of clarity and for time, we've cut out a little bit of a pause here. And by a little bit, I mean like 5 seconds of a pause at the beginning of this answer.
And in radio, it's not a little bit.
It's to the point where our engineer is right outside of the door right now. He would come in here if we allowed 5 seconds of dead air to be a...
I don't know, man.
He's got a lot of things he's working on right now.
He's doing temperature
Apparently
stuff.
our AC or our heat's been out and has been nobody's ever reported this. So
okay, so there
Weird.
Well, I know.
Alex can't help himself. He can't help. Alex sent an email in March. You don't check the date.
No, I have the date. I have it.
6 weeks later, it's getting fixed.
420, sweet.
Wonder what broke it. Okay, so the Blues, that's something like that. They were asked
today's
about
like a holiday for you, isn't it?
Honestly, man. Sorry. It's legal now.
There's nothing to be ashamed of.
If you're tired tomorrow, I don't want to hear about it.
All right, timeout.
Oh man, I just broke my headset.
Dang.
Come back.
All right, back on the rails. The Blues were asked about Jordan Kyrou, his season, and I think the question was literally, who is Jordan Kyrou?
Yeah, to both of them, to both Jim Montgomery and Doug Armstrong, they both were asked, who is Jordan Kyrou?
A reminder, there is a 5-second pause here in the actual audio, but this is where it picks up with Doug Armstrong.
I think, you take the last 3 years, 30-goal scorer. I think he's a 30-goal scorer that had a bad year, had an off year. And quite honestly, he never found a block of play during the whole season where it was 10 or 12 or 15 or 20 games. It was just a sporadic year. He's in the prime of his career. He wants to be successful. How he's going to go about doing that is something that he's going to have to wrestle with Jim and Alex, making sure this doesn't happen again. If you're going to play in this league probably for 15, 16 years like he could, not every year is going to be a Rembrandt. But if I'm him, I'm excited to get up tomorrow morning to go to work to prove everybody that 25, 26 season was an aberration. That's not who I am. And I believe that's what he's going to do.
So, and we could play the Jim Montgomery one before we get too deep into this, but JR talked about this on the podcast this morning, and it's the same thing I do. When these press conferences happen, they're always so like black and white, like they're cliche answers, but you always look for different things. And the two things that popped out when Doug Armstrong and both Jim Montgomery were asked was the brief pause that they had. Because to me, when they were also asking about Jimmy Snuggerud and Robert Thomas and Dylan Holloway and Broberg and Mayu, the response was there. This one was, how do I frame this? But then also at the end, when you hear a president of hockey operations saying, if I were Jordan Kyrou, that to me is telling that, hey, we've talked with him about this. And it just hasn't translated. And if people didn't get the chance to hear it, when Jordan Kyrou was asked about why the slow start for the team and for him offensively, he talked about how, I'm not sure, when the team got dragged down, it was hard to pull ourselves back out of it. When the same question was asked to Jordan Binnington, he said, I have to be better. My process has to be improved, and I am excited to go into the offseason and work on that. So I do think those are very telling, and especially with the president of hockey operations when he's asked that question.
All right, you referenced it. Now let's hear Jim Montgomery, his answer. What is Jordan Kyrou?
Jordan Kyrou is a dynamic offensive player who can make things happen out of nothing offensively. We didn't see that as much this year as we did the year before. Everybody has seasons in their career where they dip. It's going to be exciting to see how well Jordan Kyrou rebounds with a terrific summer and comes back and is the player and the dynamic offensive player for the Blues that everybody expects.
Yeah, his was a lot more direct and straightforward with this one. But again, I couldn't help but not overlook the pause that he had prior to the answer with it. And sometimes these guys are just thinking. I understand it, but it's not an instant reaction to knowing what it was. To me, it's okay, how do I answer this question properly?
Do you think Kyrou's here next year?
I don't. He gave the best answer you could ask for. It was the perfect response when he was asked, do you want to be a part of this? And Jordan Kyrou said, yeah, I want to be a part of this. I've grown up here. I was drafted here. I get to play here. The youth movement gets me excited. I want to be here. I couldn't help but listen to Jordan Kyrou and just look at him with body language and feel like it's a guy that's exhausted. And I totally understand that from his perspective. I feel like it's just exhausting to every season have to go in and jump through all of these hula hoops so that people will respect me and let me play my game, but I have to fine-tune my game to this team. So, yeah, I think he's gone because I think it's what's best for him and for the Blues. The question will be, can they find the team that wants to trade him, that gives the correct value for him, and will he accept to go there?
I'm so conflicted on this one because I think he's probably gone. And I think it's probably best for everybody involved that that's the way this ultimately goes this offseason. You're selling low. He's never been at a lower status than where he's at right now. Mm-hmm. And odds are pretty high that next year he'll have some kind of a bounce back. I don't know if he'll be great next year, but I think it'll probably be better than 45 points and 18 goals. His entire history as an NHL player would suggest that it's going to be better than that. So are you going to be able to get the price that matches what he's going to be, or are you going to get the price that matches what he was this past season? Because if it's what matches this past season, I don't know that it really makes sense for you to trade him, but you might just have to out of necessity. And beyond that, we all agree, right, in this room, this team needs more depth of scoring, correct, Alex?
Yeah.
Yep.
You would agree with that?
Yep.
We think that Holloway and Snuggerud have the potential to be that on the top line with Robert Thomas, right? Mm-hmm. We think there's a chance, at least, that you're going to get Carbonneau to become a legit second-line winger, right?
Yeah.
We like Otto Stenberg and Jake Neighbors as potential third-line wingers, right? Yeah. So really that spot that you're looking for is that second-line winger to be able to produce at a high level. Mm-hmm. What if I told you you could add on that second line a player that's consistently 30 to 35 goals and 70 to 75 points as a second line winger? How would you feel about that?
I mean, I'd feel great about it, but you can't say consistently when he's not consistently.
He was for 3 years or 4 years.
That's fine, but he didn't do it this year.
There's one outlier season, but it's this year, and it would in part be to me because you didn't have a second line center. And this is where I think it gets really interesting is there a way to get a second-line center that can maximize Kyrou again to allow you to either continue to build around him or sell high on him at this time next year? Is that possible? Or is it just completely impossible to go find that second-line center, and therefore you've got to make these moves?
Yeah, I don't know how you're finding that center and what assets you're giving up to get that center without hurting your team. Because to get a center, you're going to have to give up either a lot of your draft picks or you're going to have to give up more of your younger pieces, which to me wouldn't make any sense to trade a Carbonneau or a Jiricek to go get a second-line center to try and get the best out of Jordan Kyrou, to where that may not work. Jordan Kyrou just may not work in St. Louis.
But in that scenario that you're presenting where you've traded assets for that second-line center and it doesn't work with Kyrou, now I know, and now I can move on from Kyrou.
Yeah, but you're also not going to get the type of return for Jordan Kyrou, and you sold off all of those pieces that should be here for your future.
Maybe. But like, what if you could get a legit second line center for the number 9 overall pick?
Number 11 overall pick?
Number 11 overall pick. Sorry. I remember earlier you said the number 9. And
well, NHL.com didn't know it either. So I don't think I understand what you're saying. And in a hypothetical world, yes, that would be great. I don't think you can with that. Every team needs second line centers. And most teams have better assets than what you have to trade for.
That's
it.
fair.
And to your answer, like,
I'm just exploring the other side because I think it seems so obvious from everybody that Kyrou's gone. But what if there is a different perspective on this where they do decide to keep him here? What would that look like?
It's the part for me too with this is like nobody believed Braden Shen as a second line center last year. Everyone was like, this guy's a third line center. And he got the best out of Jordan Kyrou.
Correct.
To me, that's the problem with Jordan Kyrou. It's so inconsistent. He got there with Dylan Holloway as his winger. You're not playing with Holloway.
Do you mean by season, or do you mean it's inconsistent by game? Because by game, I agree. I think he is an erratic scorer where, like, he will go quiet for a week and then the next week he'll put up 10 points, right? Like it's weird in that way. It's kind of Nolan Gorman in that regard, where it's like, yeah, Gorman's bad for a month and then he goes on an absolute heater where nobody can stop him for a month. It's kind of similar in that regard with Jordan Kyrou, where he just has these hot stretches. And by the end of the season, though, you basically get to the exact same results every year, where it's 30 to 35 goals and it's somewhere in the 70 to 75 point range.
So give me the seasons that he scored 30 goals. The first season, he scored 30-plus goals.
2022.
Okay.
22-23, and then 23-24, and 24-25. Those 3 consecutive seasons, he was between 31 and 37
So
goals.
first season,
to be fair, 21, he scored 27 goals, but he only played in 74 games. So that would pace out to 30.
21, he played with Barbashev and Shen. But like you mentioned, 22-23, he played a majority of his minutes he played with Robert Thomas, if not all of them, because it was Kyrou, Thomas, and Tarasenko, Kyrou, and Buchnevich. 2 years ago, Kyrou, Thomas, and Buchnevich, and then last season it was Holloway, Shen, and Kyrou. They're different lines, but if I'm looking at that, the common denominator is Thomas and Holloway, and he's not playing with those guys. I think those guys raised Jordan Kyrou's game. Jordan Kyrou is not the player that raises the level of others around him. Jordan Kyrou is the guy that has to have somebody with him.
But for 4 years, we saw him produce 70 to 75 points
with Robert Thomas.
Sometimes, and sometimes it was with Braden Shen.
But that was with Holloway,
Sometimes it was with Dylan Holloway, and sometimes it was with other guy, Buchnevich. Like, he had other players. There were, I mean, you mentioned multiple different lines where during that stretch of time that we're talking about here, those 4 years, he was on 2 different lines, like fully different lines, 2 different players with him on each of them that were the best line on the team each of those years. But one of them, it was the second line, and the other one, it was the top line.
But I think that's because you had Robert Thomas and Dylan Holloway.
But isn't that just hockey? Like, you need good line mates to be the most productive version of yourself.
If we've had the conversation, which we have this past year, of if you trade Robert Thomas, then how do you get the best out of Holloway and Snuggerud? Why does Kyrou not fall into that then?
And I would say the same thing about Thomas. Like, the best version of Robert Thomas is available to you in the back half of the season because he was with Snuggerud and Holloway. You are able to perform at your best when you have high-level players playing alongside you. You're able to be the best version of Colton Parayko when you have a good defenseman next to you. How long were we talking about, well, if you can just get him the right pairing mate, you'll have a legitimate number 1 defenseman with Colton Parayko. And that's not an excuse. I think that's fair. I think that's real. And for Jordan Kyrou, I don't think he had legitimate second-line players playing alongside him this year. I don't think Dalibor Dvorsky, he may be at some point a second-line center in the NHL. That very well could be his range of outcomes 3 to 5 years down the road. Today, he's not that. Today, he can't drive offense enough to be able to get the most out of a player like Jordan Kyrou. So that's where I'm coming from, and it is a devil's advocate argument. I think they probably will and most likely should trade Jordan Kyrou this offseason. I just think there's an alternate universe where the Blues decide, you know what? It's in our best interest to keep this guy because it's going to be really freaking hard to replace him. Because replacing 35-plus goals and 70-plus points at $8 million per year, dude, you just don't see those kinds of players across the NHL, especially not under the age of 30. And so the easier way to go about this, I know it sounds kind of crazy right now because we're coming off of this really bad season for Kyrou. It's real. That happened. There's no way to avoid it. The easiest way to get this team back on track might just be actually adding that second-line center. Now, sounds easy in theory. Good luck finding him. I don't know who that player is, and that's where it gets difficult again.
Yeah, I see. I understand what you're saying, and yeah, the perfect scenario would be to go out there and find another elite center to play with Jordan Kyrou and get the best out of him. I think some of it is motivation for Jordan Kyrou in terms of individual motivation. And again, I go back to that Doug Armstrong comment where he's saying, if I'm Jordan Kyrou, that tells me that the conversations have been had and it's not making any change. He's slow out of the gate. You get peaks and valleys with him, which you're right. It happens with goal scorers, but you have to think of the style that the coach wants the team to play. And his style he's not bringing what Jim Montgomery needs to be effective on that line. And at some point, you just have to be honest with it and say, we're never going to get it from him. So maybe we need to go find somebody that can provide it to us.
Are we going to say the same thing about Jake Neighbors?
No, because I think Jake Neighbors plays the style that they want them to play.
Okay. I'm just asking because this year he also had a down year.
Yeah.
And
right.
If we're going to talk about Jordan Kyrou being down this season and not producing the way that they needed him to, and we're going to criticize him for all of that, we should also probably do the same thing for Jake Neighbors.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, but I just want to.
Jake Neighbors also has only been in the league for 3 years. Jordan Kyrou's in his 8th full season at the NHL level.
I would add this, too. Like, I think if you said Neighbors didn't have a second-line center with him, and he had 36 points, which was 10 points shy of where he was last year, and I get it, that was in 69 games played, by the way. I actually think he probably would have paced out to about he was last year, and I'd say, okay, then this is fine.
And we've already accepted
the reason
that.
I think there's the issue with Kyrou is even I can understand your argument, and I think it is a fair one on, hey, he didn't have a second line center this year. He may not even played with second line players. Kyrou's dynamic enough that he shouldn't be a guy that didn't even score 20 goals and didn't even have 50 points. Yeah. That's inexcusable. If Neighbors has a down year because he doesn't have second line players, that kind of makes sense because he's not really a dynamic player. He's more of the gritty guy that goes to the front of the net. So I expect his stuff is going to fluctuate, and he probably is more of his results depend on who his line mates are. I don't feel that way about Kyrou.
And real quick, because a ton of people are bringing up other players saying, well, we should be negative on this guy then. Somebody said Pavel Buchnevich. We were negative on Pavel Buchnevich.
I'll be negative.
Here's the other thing, though. Pavel Buchnevich is used very differently than Jordan Kyrou because Jim Montgomery will play him in defensive situations. And then somebody brought up Colton Parayko. Guys, you could complain about Colton Parayko all you want that he didn't score 15 goals this season. That dude played 20-plus minutes a night and played in the defensive style that from December 1st until the end of the season was top 5 in the National Hockey League. So some guys add a lot more to their game that's just not the offense. Jordan Kyrou is one of those guys that if you're all offense, you either need to be consistent or people are going to look for every single wart you have.
Kyrou is a home run hitter that's not hitting home runs.
Yes, and I'm not saying it's right.
This year, he was Nolan Gorman from the last couple of seasons. He's the guy that strikes out a lot, right? That's his defense. For Kyrou, it's defense. For Gorman, it's the strikeouts. And you can live with that when they're doing the thing that puts either goals or runs on the board. But when they're not, it becomes a lot harder to deal with the lack of whatever else the other issues are. The blemishes start to show up more, and they outweigh some of the benefits of the player.
Yeah.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Coming up next, it's no coincidence that the Cardinals performed well against the Astros over the weekend. We'll explain why coming up next here on 101 ESPN. So the Cardinals pitching staff, the Cardinals starters looked good over the weekend against the Houston Astros. Alex, that's not by coincidence. The Astros lineup is almost exclusively right-handed.
But I thought that was a World Series contender.
They should be a good team, but man, the injuries have just taken their toll on them right now. I think they'll probably be fine over the long haul. I just don't know what their health status will be, and that's ultimately going to determine it. But from the Cardinals' perspective, you had Kiley and Andre Pallante over the weekend. Both of them looked pretty solid. And we said this on Friday going into that game. We're curious to see what Kiley looks like, because Leahy against righties is awesome this year. Leahy against lefties is one of the worst pitchers in Major League Baseball this season. Well, when you looked at that lineup for the Astros, they only had the possibility of putting 3 lefties into the lineup. And so guess what? He looked good. 5 innings, 5 hits, 3 earned runs, 6 strikeouts, no walks. All right, you can live with that if that's what Kyle Leahy looks like. Same thing for Andre Pallante. 5 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 5 strikeouts, did have the 3 walks, but whatever, you can live with it, limited the damage. And then Libby yesterday, he was the one that I was really curious about because of all of those righty bats, but he looked really good too. Didn't have a ton of swing and miss stuff, but limited the damage against him, didn't give a bunch of free passes, and so he ends up going 6 innings and giving up just the 1 earned run. Overall, this weekend, your starting pitchers, Leahy, Pallante, and Libby, 16 innings, 5 earned runs allowed. Dude, you can live with that. That's pretty damn good, but it required you to go up against a bunch of right-handed hitting players, and guess what? You're going into this series against the Marlins, and guess what they have?
A whole bunch
of lefties.
Well, and then after
Michael McGreevy, congratulations, brother. A whole lot of lefties coming your way. Kyle Leahy on Wednesday, congratulations, brother. Whole lot of lefties coming your way once again.
And then after the Marlins, who do they play? Isn't it Seattle?
Yep.
6 left-handed batters in their lineup. After Seattle, who do they play?
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh has a total of 4.
Amount.
So there you go. Not as much. Who's after Pittsburgh?
Uh-oh.
Who is
The
it?
Dodgers.
There's 6 left-handed hitters. Who's after the Dodgers?
That one will be
the
ugly.
Brewers.
5 left-handed hitters. And then you also got in the National League, Philly, who's got 5. Atlanta, who's got 5. You've got the Washington Nationals, who have 6. Colorado, who has 6. So, yeah, this plays into what we talked about. This stretch that they're going through right now, you're going to find an awful lot out about this team. Now, the offense will continue to hit, it seems like. They have the potential to keep you in games.
They at least have the potential to,
But sneaking out of games with your starters stat line looking pretty decent and then bullpen falling apart, I think that's where things start to really fall off for the Cardinals over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and you know what? That would match kind of the eye test too. Even though I know they were good against this right-handed heavy lineup, I never felt like they were like overpowering and dominant, right? It's just not who this rotation's going to be. So when they start to face lefties, yeah, it's probably going to look ugly. I wouldn't be shocked if McGreevy goes like 5 and gives up 3 earned runs tonight against the Miami Marlins. Wouldn't shock me at all. It's a problem that I don't think they have answers to. I know they talked about adding the changeup. That was the big theme from winter warmup for guys like Leahy and Pallante, and I think McGreevy kind of talked about it a little bit as well. It was because they were struggling against lefties last year, and we didn't really notice it. And now that we know it, and it kind of caught our attention when they all start talking about adding a changeup, coincidentally enough, yeah, I just don't think they have the answers for this, right? You can't really – it's hard to train these guys once they get to the big leagues of, all right, here's how we're going to get lefties out. It's going to come from in the minor leagues when they start to get some of their top-end pitching prospects up here. Then hopefully those guys will be able to get both lefties and righties out.
So to give context on this, this year, the Cardinals' rotation against right-handed hitters.
I was just looking this up.
Allow a 210 average, a 280 on-base percentage, and a 335 slugging percentage. That's really good. You would be thrilled if that's what it looked like stat lines against your starting staff the rest of the season. To put that in context, 210, 280, 335, that's roughly what the overall numbers are. That's like what Pedro Pages has been offensively this year.
Ooh, I've heard
so
that's
opposing pitchers, or your pitchers against right-handed hitters, those righties all become Pedro Pages. Meanwhile, against left-handed hitters, those lefties against the Cardinals' rotation are batting .315 with a 372 on-base percentage and a 540 slugging percentage so far this year. So that is basically Jordan Walker's average and on-base percentage and a little lower than him in terms of the slug. So they become Pedro Pajes. your opposing hitters become Pedro Pajes when they are righties, and they become Jordan Walker when they are lefties.
Yeah, but
against
which
your
Jordan
starting
Walker?
staff.
The guy that's just getting a 14-game hit streak, or the guy that's hitting 8 home
Here,
runs?
I'll make it easier so you can't question it. They become basically Jordan Alvarez.
Oh, that's much better. Yeah, I saw that they gave up it's the second highest batting average in all Major League Baseball against left-handed hitters. And you're about to go through a little bit of a stretch of...
It's number one.
Yeah. Oh, I saw the Phillies.
Against the
You're probably looking
starters.
at those
starters. Yeah, this was just in
starters is
general.
number one,
Gotcha.
315 average. There's only two other teams that allow an above 300 average against lefties. It's Colorado, who, yeah, of course, and
That'll be a fun
Philadelphia,
series.
who's off to an awful start so far this season.
Yeah, so
Philly
I mean,
doesn't get them out? Is that who you said?
Yep.
Wow, that's shocking. 'Cause they have
Philly's starting
left-handed
rotation
starters.
has a 6.1 ERA when facing left-handed hitters this season.
yeah.
Ouch.
I just, I think all of the excitement is not going to go away, but all of the, wow, they're a top 2 team in the NL Central. I think that fizzles out in the next couple of weeks because you're about to go through this stretch where your offense legitimately is going to have to score.
Or they figure something out. Those are the two options. Because if this
Can be an option.
continues, if you continue having these kinds of struggles against left-handed hitters, it's going to be a problem. It will eventually show up, and it'll show up in the record book. But if you find something that opens up your arsenal against them, that's the optimistic view.
I like how you give the ors. I'm just kind of the strict, this is the
I'll
option.
just tell you now, it's not going to get fixed.
When my kids are eating dinner, I'm like, look, if you want dessert, you have to eat your vegetables.
So a big part of one of the reasons why I'm saying it that way is because like Michael McGreevy has been really good against lefties so far this year. I don't know how much I expect that to continue. And Matthew Liberatore has been the worst against left-handed hitters so far this year. And I also don't expect that to
but
continue.
he's a left-handed pitcher.
Correct. That's weird. I think eventually that'll meet somewhere in the middle.
Out of curiosity, you've got their numbers in front of you,
Mm-hmm.
right? How many plate appearances against Libby?
Libby,
to the
not
others?
many, 27.
So his is just a small sample size.
Correct.
Because I don't expect
They're
him to see
10
a
for
ton of
27
lefties.
against him with a walk.
That makes sense. And that's why his numbers are so inflated. That one checks out.
Yeah. Dustin May, for example, they're 20 for 56 against him with 4 walks. Kyle Leahy, it's 16 for 46 with 6 walks and 2 home runs.
That might continue.
Yeah.
And same with May. I think that could continue for May as well. I just, when we start talking about, like, this is the time of the year where all these fun conversations of, I've been working on the changeup and I'm going to throw it in spring, and then you get to the season, he throws it like once in a game.
The kick
Right?
change.
We're at that point of the year where it's like, all right, well, if you didn't like what you worked on in spring training, odds are you abandoned it, which means you're probably going to be the same guy against these left-handers. So I don't see this one changing. I feel pretty confident in saying that's not going to change. Libby's numbers, I agree. That one will probably change. For most of these righties, I don't think so.
There's a real chance you see 5 left-handed hitters and a switch hitter tonight in the lineup against the Cardinals. And that should be the way that they attack the Cardinals in all 3 of these games, with McGreevy, May, and Leahy on the mound against Miami. So we mentioned it going into that Houston series. That was a big part of it. They have a lot of right-handed hitters. It's basically one lefty that can do damage against you, and he did. But they were able to limit it enough to where the righties didn't kill him, and you live to see the other side. In this series, it is a really big test for your pitching. In that series against Houston, I thought it was a test for your offense because that's where they were bad, is you could take advantage of them, but you were going to have to score like 5+ runs in each of the games to be able to come out ahead. You did, came out ahead, you won all 3. This series, I'm very curious to see how the Cardinals pitching will be able to stack up against a Marlins offense that, it ain't great, but they've got lefties who can take advantage of your single biggest weakness so far this season. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Coming up on the other side, Doug Armstrong clearly defined the roles for he and Alexander Steen this offseason. We'll get into that next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Yesterday, the Cardinals completed their sweep of the Astros as they've won 5 straight as they head down to Miami tonight as they start a 3-game set with the Marlins. 5:40 will be first pitch. Michael McGreevy will be on the mound for St. Louis. Max Meyer will get the start for the Marlins. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Final thing from the Blues exit interviews for today. I'm sure the Fast Lane will have plenty on this coming up later on this afternoon. Doug Armstrong was asked about defining the roles for he and Alexander Steen, what that transition will look like this offseason. I thought he laid it out pretty clearly. I think this is the most clear we have heard it, Alex, over the weekend from Doug Armstrong.
Till July 1, it'll be business as usual. I will stay in contact with the managers around the league, and Alex and I obviously work hand in hand. A lot of my focus will be on the draft, moving around the draft, picking the players, and if players are involved in any trades around the draft, it's final say. I don't know whoever has a final say. Like, we work together. But there's guys traded at the draft. It'll be his call, basically. With my guidance and my, I don't say approval, I'll give him the reasons. And if we can't work together, then we can't work together. I don't see that being an issue. I know we can work together. We've worked together for 2 years now. But ultimately, someone has to have the final say. What I told the players that right after the trade deadline, I believe, I said that we met them and I said, Alex, for all intents and purposes, is the GM as far as you're concerned now. There's no more trades this season. There's no more waivers. They're all there. So now Alex has to put his stamp on the team in his exit meetings, his expectations, and then we'll go through the draft working hand in hand, because that's my experience is going to come in right now through the draft.
This doesn't surprise me. I think a lot of people were just kind of kept in the dark because they didn't know with this one. But he's said all along that, look, nobody's making the final decision, at least over these last couple of years. He said also a little bit later on in that press conference that, over the last 2 seasons, he's slowly decreased his involvement and kind of increased more for Alex Steen. He said a couple of years ago it was 75-25, and then this past season it was like 60-40. So he said the progression has always been there, and I thought the quote where he basically told the players, hey, he's this GM now. There's no more trades. There's no more waivers that I'm involved in. This is going to be him. Now, much like it's going to be at least for the next year with Doug as the president of hockey operations, he just becomes a part of Steen's inner circle. Steen's making the final call. Doug will help him, hey, here's what I think. But Doug told the story that I've told on this show before of when he was the GM in Dallas, and Bob Gainey basically told him, I'm going to lunch. You figure out what you're doing at this trade deadline. So, I think as we approach June 25th and 26th with the draft, any roster moves, that's going to be Steen. Any contract extensions, signings for pending RFA and UFAs, that's all Steen. The draft will be Doug Armstrong in terms of the player, but even Doug has addressed in the past, I don't make the picks on the drafts. He said that the problem with general managers is when they pick the player they want versus your scouting staff making the selection. So I don't believe Doug is going to have his fingerprints on any of these moves moving forward. I think it's Steen, and Doug will be there to help assess the situation with him. Scorsy on the YouTube chat says, is this a Mo Gersh situation? I do not believe so. I don't think it's similar to that at all. I don't know that there is a good comparison for what we are entering right now. Yeah. It's almost like an advisor role is the way that it seems like they're describing for Doug Armstrong, more so than a true hands-on, this guy is in charge, so to speak. I think it's very different. I think Alexander Steen is in charge of this team. It is his organization starting on July 1st. And for any of the NHL stuff that's getting done, stuff that will impact the team next year directly, I think that is also Alexander Steen. That's my impression, at least from everything that we've heard. And the thing that Doug said at the beginning is the important part. He said, I'll be in contact with the general managers up until July 1st. Mm-hmm. All of the GMs around the league, if they want to make a trade with the Blues, they're calling Doug. They're not calling Steen. On July 1st, they start calling Doug. But what Doug was saying was when they call me or when I contact them, if situations arise it's brought to Alex Steen, and Alex Steen can make the final decision. Whereas probably in the last couple of years, Doug has told Steen, here's what I'm thinking, and then Steen has to, get on board with it or not on board with it. But Doug said, it's like, there's no final say. We're working together hand in hand. It's just the GMs aren't calling Steen right now. On July 1st, if they want to make a trade with the Blues, they're calling Alex Steen, and then Steen goes to Doug with the decision.
And I would say, I think Steen, I know they don't want to necessarily put it this way, but Steen will have final say.
Yeah.
It's his call, man. Ultimately, and if I'm Alexander Steen, that's the way I would want it because, hey, man, my job's the one that's on the line.
Yeah, this is my team
At
now.
that point, if I do something that it ends up coming back and it does not look good, like the Pavel Buchnevich contract, right? If you make a move like that, it reflects on the person who is viewed as being in charge. That person, starting on July 1st, is Alexander Steen. Therefore, he is the one that makes the final call. Mm-hmm. And if nothing else, the perception will be that he is the one that makes the final call. So I just thought it was important to hear that from everybody involved, because I don't think that previously we heard it laid out so clearly, and now we have.
Yeah.
So now we know what the pecking order looks like within the Blues organization.
And I think the end quote that he said was him talking about how this is going to be a really important 2 months of the organization, and I think it's going to be because they're going to try and move up in the draft. They may look for NHL pieces before the draft. I still believe that pre-July 1st, the Blues are hoping to get all of the big deals done so that Alexander Steen has an easy way into the season where he takes over, rather than have all of these decisions of Kyrou and a couple of Parayko and Thomas and then the draft day. I think they want to get a lot of those tasks done and then let Alexander Steen gradually go into July 1st.
Coming up next, we'll hit the rewind here on 101 ESPN.
It's that time of the year in St. Louis. I think last night my wife and I went back from heat in the house to air conditioning in the house to turning it off, back to heat before we went to bed, because that's how the weather goes in St. Louis in the springtime. And that's why you need to have a trusted company taking care of your HVAC system like Classic Air Care. They've been around since 1926. They've been making people comfortable since then. They've been taking care of me and my home since 2016. When it comes to older units, or maybe you got a brand new one, they're the company that has technicians that have been doing this for 30 plus years that come out and give you actual answers as to what's gone wrong, how to avoid any issues moving forward. And most importantly, they've got a lot of availability to get to you, because they've got 100 orange vans with the Penguins on the side out on the road. They're going to get back to you within 24 hours to get you on the schedule, so that in the springtime, once you get into the heat of the summer, if issues pop up, you get that schedule on and have a company that you can trust come out to your home. Plus, in the springtime month of April, they've got a $79 AC tune-up available for you. Plus, they've got different options in terms of HVAC system repair, or maybe financing options if you're looking to purchase one. So call them today. You could schedule online. Do me a favor. Tell them Alex Ferrario sent you. Classic Air Care and ClassicAirCare.com.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. The TMA Dotem Golf Tournament on Friday, May the 15th is sold out, but you could still win a foursome to join TMA for a full day out on the course. The Dotem is going to include breakfast from Donut Drive-In, lunch from Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken, all your Cutwater canned cocktails and Anheuser-Busch beer and seltzers, plus the 100 West Dental closest to the pin competition, the Evergreen Wealth Strategies longest drive competition, and an after party with food from Texas Roadhouse for chances to win a free foursome for the sold-out Dotem. Go to the 101 ESPN app or 101ESPN.com. Winner must be 21 or older. Giveaways brought to you by Cutwater Canned Cocktails. All right, Alex, to finish out the show today, let's talk a little bit about the Cardinals, who will be taking the field once again later this evening, in Miami to play against the Miami Marlins. They will do so against the right-handed throwing Max Meyer. He's 27 years old. Once upon a time, he was a really interesting prospect. So far this season, he's just been okay. He's got decent strikeout stuff, though, and he's a righty, so we'll be curious to see what that looks like against this Cardinals lineup. How you feeling going into this series against the Marlins? A lot of lefties in their lineup.
Yeah, I feel great about the offense. I feel great about what the offense can do, but I think you are about to get a real taste of the struggles that this rotation will be going through this season. I mean, with the Marlins, with the Mariners, and then when they take the Dodgers on and then the Brewers, to me, you can't hide behind the right-handed hitters. You're going to be seeing a lot of lefties, and if it goes the way I think it might, I think that might be you're going to be at your bullpen pretty soon, and the bullpen we all know. So I think the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks are going to be, if you win baseball games, your offense is going to have to continue to score 7, 8, 9 runs. And I don't know if they'll be able to do that consistently.
Yeah, I think this series could present its struggles from the pitching standpoint, but the offense has been scrappy. I think it's going to be an entertaining series. No one's going to be there to watch it in Miami, but it's going to be an entertaining series. I think they take 2 or 3 from Miami. They've been playing good baseball. I think they'll continue that.
I'm a little worried about this series. This is the one that makes me a little bit nervous. I think Miami takes 2 out of 3 in this one. Cardinals come back home, and we'll see what they're able to do this weekend as Brendan Donovan makes his return to Busch Stadium. I did see they've got like $99 suite tickets available.
You want to pay for it 50-50?
$99, you get a spot in a suite where I think it's all you can eat, all you can drink while you're there.
Do we want to go 3 ways with this?
You really want to go to a game with BK?
Yeah.
Can we bring our families?
Oh, I'm out then.
Of course.
Oh my God, let's do it.
4 little
$99
kids
though for
around?
little kids. I don't know if that's necessary.
No, it's $99 for the suite, right?
No, each person, it's $99 for your ticket.
You pay for you 3, and then we'll find our way in.
All right, Alex, if you guys missed anything from today's show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. That is all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
101 ESPN app, super easy to use. It's free to download. That's sponsored by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. You said there's a new edition of the Last Minute Blues podcast?
Yeah, we figured with all the stuff on Saturday, the exit interviews, JR, Donnie, and I got together, and we sat down to going to go through all of it, so our in-depth breakdown of the exit interviews, and Wednesday we'll have another episode as Doug Armstrong is going to be sitting in with us.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, so we're going to have Doug in final time as the general manager for the Blues. He's going to sit down with the 3 of us, so we'll have audio for that on Wednesday's show.
You can check that out over on YouTube at youtube.com/101ESPNSTL. For Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. By the way, I was this week on the Best Podcast in Baseball. I was Derek Gould's guest. That is now posted as well, so you can check out that podcast. We will talk to Derek Gould tomorrow here on BK and Ferrario. The Fast Lane's next here on 101 ESPN.